Good afternoon. 12:30 is the time on this Wednesday afternoon. Pardon me. You're watching Live Impact News here on WCNC Plus. We start this afternoon right now on the Plus with a Charlotte area immigration advocacy group that's facing a difficult challenge. We did hear that Border Patrol agents have cleared the area, but that their operation Charlotte's Web is not over yet, and this group's services, there is still a need for it. Our Julie Kay is on this story today, and Julie, let's start with the advocacy group here in Charlotte, and specifically what are the increased services and numbers? You have updated numbers as well, don't you?
Yeah, there's been some of that confusion that you mentioned over whether or not Border Patrol is still here, whether Operation Charlotte's Web is still underway. Department of Homeland Security, doubling down today, releasing these new numbers saying more than 425 people have been arrested since that operation started. But even with that confusion, with some local leaders saying, oh no, they've left, but of course ICE is still here, the Charlotte Center for Legal Advocacy says they're still seeing an increased increased need for services. They offer free legal aid for multiple different groups, multiple different types of people in need, but of course immigration is kind of the big focus right now. People who need help with immigration attorneys, undocumented minors that are unaccompanied. That has been a big piece of their help overall. Recently, though, they have increased what they're offering. For example, they're sending pro bono attorneys to people's homes so they don't have to leave. They're holding things online. They're hosting clinics to help people emergency plan for in the event that they are detained or deported, making sure your assets are in the right place and that your kids are in a safe place and things like that. So a lot of this is kind of pre-planning and preparedness, because even though there is confusion over whether and who's here. Of course, ICE has been here operating since before this operation and will continue to after. But still, there's that increased fear after a lot of the videos we've seen. I know that businesses in East Charlotte are still struggling to get people to come. And so we're seeing some lingering effects, and that's what they're kind of focusing on now, is that pre-planning. What can we do now while we kind of wait and see? And
besides being in a level of alertness and preparing for what could come still, demands are increasing, like you said, but this is all amid some funding cuts as well. What is that challenge like for them?
Yeah, and I've talked to the Charlotte Center for Legal Advocacy, and they're kind of an offshoot of them is the Immigrant Justice Center that spearheads a lot of that operation and that legal funding and that legal aid. So I've spoken with them a couple times over the past year about some of the funding cuts that they've faced. We've seen lots of nonprofits this year face funding challenges, not just at the county or city or state level with just budget cuts in general, but also funding that comes from the federal government, funding to help with unaccompanied minors. They've seen that kind of go from a basis that it's renewed, once a year, or I think once every 6 months, to it's renewed much more often. And so there's kind of that general fear of like, is it going to get renewed or is it going to get cut? And so I think generally they're dealing with a lot of legal aid overall funding cuts from the federal government, right. But also even the ones that they're still receiving are kind of on a tighter timeline that's making them be on alert as well.
All right, a lot of things to clear up, and their efforts have not waned at all. Our Julie Kay covering this story for us today here on WCNC Charlotte. When can we see your report?
Be on at 5 and 6.
5 and 6. See you then. Thanks for stopping by in Live Impact Studio.
Thank you.
All right, and we are monitoring this picture right here that you see where in Minnesota there's a press conference. It is set for right now to start at 12:30 in response to a sharp rise in threats, harassment, and some hateful rhetoric, to be honest, directed at Minnesota's Somali and Muslim communities, with ICE agencies or agents headed that way, if not already operating there. And we do know that Border Patrol is also getting ready to set up, if they haven't already, in New Orleans. I want to take you out right now to a live picture. This is in the Orlando area, where it looks like fire crews are on scene. And as you can see here by the graphic, Lockheed Martin's Orlando building has been evacuated. It looks like a set of smaller warehouses, but definitely a complex here on the property. And we're still looking for a cause, James. I know you're trying to dig up some information on this. What do you know?
Yeah, working to get some additional information from our news partners in that area, Jane. But one of the things I've been able to see just by watching this helicopter shot is that first responders have set up a triage staging area. And typically what we end up seeing is kind of like a green blanket, a yellow blanket, and a red blanket, so that if there is anyone who needs medical attention, they can triage them. They can sort them by high, medium, and low. So a few moments ago, I was able to see kind of where they had set up a yellow staging area. We don't know whether or not anyone is in need of medical assistance at this time, but that's one of the typical things we'll see first responders, that is, Jane, kind of set up in a situation like this.
And we saw some of the first responders there dressed in the hazmat protective gear, so they are prepared for any kind of situation that usually is a specialized unit of the fire department. But yeah, that is a pretty active scene there right out of Orlando. Busy news day there in Florida, as we were seeing earlier, some earlier pictures nearby of a deadly crash on the turnpike. So that property seems to be surrounded. I see more red trucks and fire units, as it seems, more than just normal passenger cars, it seems.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to do some research to see exactly what the Orlando facility for Lockheed Martin does, because I don't know offhand.
Yes, that's what I was going to look at too.
But I'm just kind of generally thinking about the area, and we know Cape Canaveral is not too far from there. Lockheed Martin being a legacy space company. That's not to say that this facility does space work, but we can kind of see it is an industrial-like facility. It's got big tanks, and that probably explains why, while you were talking to Julie, we were seeing here in the Live Impact News studio those firefighters dressed in what looked to me, Jane, as gear that maybe would protect them from flame or from heat or from even from chemical. Some sort of full body suit is what you were describing, as they went inside the facility. We still don't know what has caused the evacuation, but we can see, as you mentioned here, a very large first responder presence. We see a couple firefighters dressed there at the top of the screen in what I would describe as typical firefighting outfits. I don't see any of those big kind of silver outfits head to toe right now in this shot, but we did see those officials go inside the building, and so we know, in addition to whatever we're seeing outside, there are at least a handful of folks on the inside.
A very active scene there by looking at some of the folks and officials there. They're moving at a non-urgent way, so I guess that is always encouraging. We don't see people running into the building.
Exactly right. That kind of gives us the tone. Oh, there are those suits you were talking
about.
Those are the two individuals we saw go in. They just come back out, and certainly that would give them protection from head to toe. It looks like maybe it's got some sort of backpack or breathing apparatus. So potentially, maybe, Jane, this is a situation where there maybe is a chemical or smell in the air. I'm just speculating based on things that we've seen at previous industrial sites. We've seen some barrels over here by the front door, and we also see a drone that's in the air.
I just looking up Lockheed Martin in Orlando, calling it helping Orlando become Florida's major tech hub. So the company is a technical company anyway, but obviously a major area being covered here, and the property itself is quite massive. So you can only imagine how many employees are scattered all over these buildings. But we're trying to gather more information on that. When we learn more, we will bring that to you, of course, here on WCNC Plus, because that's what we do. When we see the live feed, we look into it, and we bring you the information as soon as we get it. So I know our Orlando partner is also working to gather more information on that very active scene at Lockheed Martin in Orlando. All right, back out here now on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We do know that some families have filed a lawsuit in Kentucky against UPS after the UPS crash out of Lexington, Kentucky. They have conducted a press conference. It is still taking place, but we're going to start this from the beginning, taking place here today. This is out of Louisville, Kentucky now. We're going to start this press conference for you on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
When you start seeing people that work for this company coming out themselves and saying the things that they're saying, I think it's critical for somebody like, I wanted to make sure that We have the best aviation attorneys in the world take the lead on this, and we do. So you don't get answers a lot of times with these lawsuits until you get to conduct discovery. And if you just sit around and wait for them to hopefully do the right thing, you're not getting the answers that you want.
Can I follow up and also answer just your question for a second on why file it at this point? There's an old adage in the world of victims that are subject to tragedies that happen like this, and it's something that are words to live by. They say that justice delayed is justice denied. Every day that you wait to take action in a legal case can cause evidence to disappear, can cause information to grow old, and to cause memories to fade by the people that were most involved. And the longer you wait, the more it only helps the people that caused the crash, because it's less fresh in everyone's mind, people's memories fade. The sooner we can get this case to justice, the better off it'll be for the victims. The longer that this case takes to come to fruition, the better and the more it helps the people that caused it. So, like I say, justice delayed is justice denied, and there's no reason to delay it here.
Outside of the obvious win that you're seeking, what is the best case scenario for how you hope a case like this can change the systems that you are looking into as for why this crash happened?
That's an excellent question, thank you. If you look currently at the emergency airworthy directives that have come from the FAA, these planes, both MD-11s and all DC-10s, are all grounded. They're grounded throughout the United States, and there was recently a letter that was sent by Bill Moore, the president of UPS Airlines, who indicated that rather than these planes being kind of grounded, if you will, for weeks, which...
All right, we're going to put a pause in that press conference for the families of the victims from the UPS crash in Lexington, Kentucky, because we want to take you out to Minneapolis right now, where a press conference is just getting underway. This is in response to ICE entering Minneapolis and an effort there, particularly for the Somalian Muslim communities there. Let's listen in on Live Impact News.
An openly hostile rhetoric directed specifically at the Somali American Minnesotan community here in the great state of Minnesota. Words like garbage being used by the President of the United States to describe immigrants, specifically Somali immigrants, are not political drama. This language has consequences, travels into our classrooms, our mosques, our workplaces, and our neighborhoods. It creates fear, it emboldens extremists, and it puts real people in danger. Minnesota's Somali community is a vital part of this state. We are your teachers, we are your nurses, we're your educators, we are your students, we're your truck drivers. We help this city, this great city, and this great state run. With that, I want to begin by introducing our first speaker. We have a number of speakers with us today. Our Director of Civil Rights, Alex Shaw, will be joining us momentarily as well. I'll be introducing our first speaker, Mr. Jalan Hussein, Executive Director of CARE Minnesota.
JAYLANIHUSSEIN, Executive Director of CARE Minnesota, Jalan Hussein. We are here yet again after President Trump has now almost every single day targeted the Somali American community. In the past 24 hours, we have learned that there will be additional ICE agents targeting this particular community. We have, since this past 12 hours, heard from many of our community who are not only deeply concerned, but we have now seen individuals in our community recording interactions with ICE. We've already heard of, as expected and as announced before, U.S. citizens being asked about their citizenship. Somali American community came to Minnesota around the early 1990s, like myself in 1993. We've been in this country for now 30 plus years. And we came here because of the great generosity of this great country and by President George Bush Sr., who opened the door for immigration from Somalia. This past 12 hours, we've seen the ICE increase. We are here today, this morning, reassuring our community about their rights. This is something that we have been telling the community. We are asking for predominantly our Somali American community as well as other immigrant communities to listen to this press conference today as we share some really critical basic information. Most of this information has been publicly available, but we are reminding people of these basic facts about their rights. I'm really honored to have two of one of the premier organizations that have been supporting the immigrant community here. There are many other organizations, obviously, but these are two phenomenal organizations, the Advocates for Human Rights and the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. They will briefly talk more about some of those aspects and more. We are reminding our community that they have rights. We anticipate, or we have believe that Somali Americans in Minnesota particularly, over 90% are pathways to citizenship, and most of them are citizens of the United States. We also believe that, based on the 2020 census, over 51% of the Somali community were born here, which means the ICE...
And we will get you back to that live press conference happening in Minneapolis in response to an ICE operation taking place in the city. First, a 2-minute break on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We'll be right back. Back here now on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, we get you back up to the live press conference in Minneapolis with local immigration advocates speaking out as an ICE operation is taking place there in Minneapolis, currently underway. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
The Somali American community being targeted in this manner is dangerous. We have already received from different people threats online. We also know that there are some form of agent provocateurs that are planning to come here. So this is a moment for Minnesotans to step up, not to be silent, to speak up, to share your frustration, to share your support for the Somali American community, to talk about the best things about our state and their relationship to the Somali American community, but also our other immigrant communities that are parcel of our state. We are not backing down. We're not afraid. And most importantly, for most Somalis, we're citizens. We're not going anywhere. This is our home. This is our country. And we're going to do everything possible to ensure that we fight for inclusion, just like many others in this country have fought, from Irish to Italians to other community members who are targeted severely in other immigration efforts, including our Japanese American community and others. So we're not giving up, we're not going anywhere. But we want to ensure people, instead of living in fear and hysteria, to know your rights. If you know your rights, you will be comfortable to know that you have things you can do to safeguard yourself in this moment. For the leaders, specifically for state political leaders. This is not a moment to score political points. This is a moment to ensure that you speak truth to this matter. Attacking a community for the act of individuals is not only wrong and evil, but it's basically the best description of racism. And so anyone who engages in collective punishment of a community or a collective stereotyping of a community is the textbook definition of racism. And so therefore, we want people to know that. And I want to remind and welcome some of the GOP leaders who have said some positive things to continue to do that, to ensure that this attacks against the Somali community is reminded to President Trump. As also we mentioned, there are many Somalis who voted for President Trump. There are many Republican Somali Americans who are extremely disillusioned and frustrated with this attack against our community unfairly. And we're encouraging in this moment to see who will stand up for truth and who will be silent and for evil. And with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you so much, Jailani. Next, we're joined by one of the state's most respected human rights leaders. She spent years documenting abuse, supporting asylum seekers, and defending the rights of immigrant communities here in Minnesota and across the world. Please welcome Michelle Garnett McKenzie from the Advocates of Human Rights.
Thank you. Michelle, M-I-C-H-E-L-E, Garnett, G-A-R-N-E-T-T, McKenzie, M-C, capital K-E-N-Z-I-E. I'm the Executive Director at the Advocates for Human Rights. Just want to reiterate how the rule of law is a fundamental tenet of human rights and of democracy, and it means individuals should be accountable for actions they commit, but no one should be punished for an act they did not commit. Group reprisals, as Jailani said, violate basic human rights principles of due process and equal protection. They violate the things we hold most dear in this country. And the toxic rhetoric that's being weaponized right now against Somalis in Minnesota in particular, and in different ways against different groups right now, is truly advancing an agenda that is bent on ending America's commitment to humanitarian protections and to making sure that all immigrants and their families and their friends and their employers and their communities feel less, not more, secure in being part of the fabric of our country. That is the goal here, this opportunistic attack, and it is truly shameful. People do have rights, and those rights are guaranteed to persons under our Constitution, not to citizens under our Constitution. It's incredibly important and powerful. This is, again, the engine of our democracy, that each of us is individually protected from government abuse of power. I'm holding this red card, which is something that some of you may have seen out in our communities. They are an articulation for all of us, because we may not all know the constitutional rights that we hold in the moment that we need them, that you do not have to open the door. You can choose to not open the door unless there is a warrant for the government to enter your property. Without a warrant to enter your property, not just a warrant for you to be deported or arrested, but a warrant to enter your property, the government does not have a right to come into that property, and you can keep that door closed. You don't have to answer questions. We all have heard over and over on TV, you have the right to remain silent. Anything that you do say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Those are important rights that we hold, and you do not have to be bullied into or coerced into answering questions that the government asks. And you don't have to sign papers without knowing what they mean and agreeing to sign them. You have the right to an attorney when you are confronted with the government's power. These are fundamental rights that we all hold, and if we don't exercise those rights, they atrophy. So we have to hold those dear. As part of Minnesota's immigration legal services community, and my colleague will talk more about this, I'm sure, we have been doing our best to make sure people know their rights and have access to the individual information that they need about their own case. Every case is different. As Jaylani said, there are thousands of U.S.-born, U.S. citizen people here who also identify with immigrant communities or who will be identified because of what they look like or sound like as an immigrant. One of the things that we can do and should do in this moment is also document when we as citizens are approached and asked for documentation. How many of us have walked down the street and been asked to show our papers? This is not what America is like. This is not what Minnesota is like. This is not what our streets are, what we expect in a free society. And when that starts happening, as it has begun already, based on what someone looks like or sounds like, we are in peril. So document those activities, make sure those get reported up to someone who can help fight those in a court of law. I'm going to stop now and turn things over to Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. All right. Our next speaker is someone whose organization works directly with families navigating immigration challenges every single day. She leads a team that has been responding to increased fear, legal questions, and urgent calls for support. Please welcome Jennifer Powell, the Executive Director of the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota.
Good morning. Jennifer Stoll, S-T-O-H-L, Powell, P-O-W-E-L-L. I'm the Executive Director of the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota. We are a nonprofit legal services organization serving low-income refugees and immigrants throughout Minnesota and refugees and asylees in North Dakota. We have offices throughout the state of Minnesota. I'm here today because we stand with and support our Somali clients and our Somali community and neighbors. I've worked with Somali clients for many years, helping them obtain their green cards after coming into the country as refugees, all the way through the process of becoming U.S. citizens. Our organization continues to serve immigrants from across the world and stand ready to provide immigration legal services together with our partners like the Advocates for Human Rights and other legal services organizations here in Minnesota.
Again, you've been watching live a press conference out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, with local advocates speaking on federal agents' efforts, ICE operation currently underway there for the Minneapolis area. Saw a couple of other images there. Want to update you on the Florida Lockheed facility. It has been evacuated. Employees have been all been accounted for as far as we know and are safe, but we are still working to learn what exactly is happening at the Lockheed facility there in Orlando. They did have to evacuate it, and it looks like they are scrubbing one of the hazmat first responders on scene and making sure that person who it seems to have just come out of the building is now not in harm's way with hazardous materials. Also, we were looking at a scene out of Maryland, just south of D.C., reports of a police activity. This is a live picture right now, waiting to learn some details on what might be happening at MGM Grand Hotel and Casino in National Harbor in Maryland. But we can tell you that some police activity has that scene pretty much locked down as well. So a busy afternoon right now here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We'll be right back. Just after 1 o'clock on a Wednesday, you're watching Live Impact News here on WCNC Plus. We are following some breaking news out of the D.C. area. This is police activity reported at MGM Grand at National Harbor in Maryland, across Alexandria, Virginia. This is a shot now of the police helicopter that just left the scene of the MGM hotel and casino. And James, you are following this via
Flight tracker.
Flight tracker as well.
So got it up on the screen for you right now. This is from adsbexchange.com, which is really just say it's a website that's available to track flights, but also helicopters. So as we're showing you on the screen, we are seeing the police helicopter, and that is what is on your screen right now. You can see that they're doing a tight orbit, probably checking out something on the ground. And then the vantage point that we're using is the NBC helicopter that is flying just here south of the area. Let me zoom back out, kind of get you the lay of the land. So we're in Maryland, but we're right here in the Washington, D.C. area, and we're just across the river from Alexandria. And so you can see these two helicopters are flying pretty close together. Now, interestingly, Jane, the police helicopter is not circling the casino. So right before we went to commercial break, we were showing viewers a look at the building that is the MGM hotel there in the National Harbor area. Now the TV helicopter has trained its camera over on what the police helicopter seems to be doing nearby. So we don't know why the police helicopter is circling like an adjacent neighborhood, but that seems to be what's playing out right here as we continue to get additional reports in. Interestingly also, this is very near Joint Base Andrews, which is a military facility that the president often flies in and out of. So very tightly controlled airspace here in the greater Washington, D.C. area.
Okay, so we are waiting to learn more information from we have a couple of stations that we can work with there and content partners out of D.C. and working to learn more. But yeah, it almost covers two different scenes.
Yeah, the
right?
police helicopter seems to be maybe a mile or so from where the actual hotel is. And actually, we're getting a pretty good lay of the land now from the news helicopter, which is now looking back towards the casino, back towards Alexandria.
There we go, right.
You can see if you've traveled to that area, this is that National Harbor area that has developed south of the D.C. area. I'm also just checking in right now with the FAA because this is also very near Ronald Reagan International Airport. And as we saw at the beginning of the year with the air incident that happened there, again, tightly controlled airspace. So while I don't see any changes right now to flights coming into or out of Reagan, they use the Potomac River right there behind MGM kind of to line up and approach, as we learned during that mid-air collision incident at the beginning of the year. So because all these helicopters are flying in that same airspace, that is also a thread that I will keep an eye on just to see if there ends up being any impact to commercial flights, Jane. Not to say that there is right now, but if we kind of just real quickly here show that flight tracker. The airport itself is just here in the top left of the screen. And so while the FAA has not announced any delays or anything, and I think I'm still seeing some flights taking off right now, we're going to keep a close eye on that because it's all in that same general neighborhood.
And from our content partner there in D.C. now, they have simply just put out a statement, a headline saying, shooting reported at MGM National Harbor Hotel and Casino. So we are looking at the scene in real time along with you, along with our partners there in D.C. That started or is centered and focused on the MGM Hotel and Casino in a very busy part of the metro. From obviously you can tell all of the airspaces that the police chopper is taking space. All right, so we will continue to gather more information, get some details, and confirm what, when, who, and how this all unfolded. But police activity at MGM National Harbor Hotel that is taking place right now. So far, airports and airspaces are not on any kind of restricted airspace out of the normal routine. All right, and we are also continuing to follow a press conference out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is for local immigration advocates in response to the Trump administration's comments yesterday yesterday directed at the Somali population there. That is a very large contingency in Minneapolis, and an ICE operation currently underway in Minneapolis. So we'll take you out there now. Back to Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Any locator system that sometimes is updated and sometimes is not, effectively disappearing people when they are taken into custody. It's often very difficult to make contact with people or know where they are. So having that alert sent out to family or friends is something that you can do, and having that set up is something that can keep that people calm and not and know they have a plan. They probably will never have to press that button, but you've got that plan in place.
Specifically to the Somali community, though, have there been people picked up? I'm not really asking you broadly over the last year.
Yeah, at this point, I think anecdotal reports are here, but
Some have reached out to our office, family members of individuals who have been picked up and are in ICE detention facilities in the state.
That means arrested by ICE, then?
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
And putting it in context, this is one amongst many. That we are pivoting from one group to another in this, and at the moment, the spotlight is on the Somali American
community. Did you get any sense if those people who have reached out if they have any criminal charges, or if for some it could just be because they're undocumented?
So far, what we know of the individuals, and obviously there's a lot we don't know, none of those individuals that we know had any criminal history. They were just going through the legal process. And it's possible that some of those individuals were hopeful with their process. It's hard to tell at this moment right now. And then going back to the earlier point, going to a home, a Somali home, and maybe finding one person who may be going through the legal process means that you're separating that person from the rest of their family, who are either citizens or born here. They're all citizens pretty much. So that's true to what's happening here.
And because I was over at Carmel Mall this morning, and a lot of the stores are just closed down. It seems like people are maybe just scared to go out in the community. What have you been hearing?
That's true. People are concerned about activity. Things are just shock right now, and this is one of the reasons why we're here today, to kind of remind people about their rights and also remind people what they can do to stay safe. So at this moment right now, there's a lot on social media, and we want to remind folks out there, please go after information that is coming from credible sources, organizations like us, and your attorneys, and make sure you know your rights. That doesn't change. The basic facts about remaining silent and not opening the door, these are things that you can do all the time. So we know that our community is scared, and it's unfortunate because, like I said, majority of us are U.S. citizens. Some of us even born here. It's disappointing, and we know that this rhetoric and this attack against our community not only is it unfair, but it's really weaponizing this fear against our community. And I think most Americans in this country, no matter what political stand you live in, they can tell that there's something wrong. And I'm going to go back to an earlier point that I mentioned in the previous press conference. I'm also interested in knowing those who are possibly benefiting from these continuous targeting of the Somali American community and the agendas that are behind that I believe that are also being played. That's why it's important for us that we do not have a political football for this community, and I feel like that is how it's happening. Somali Americans are just like any other community. They have Republicans, Democrats, Green Party, Independents, and people of everything, people who switch around every year. So this idea that we are a single community with a single voice or a single monolithic view is absolutely wrong.
And could you talk about how, because there have been some Republican candidates, and I'm not sure what Trump has also said in the past, maybe try and court Somali voters. What do you if you talk about how you think these comments will affect?
They will affect
the support of Somali.
Well, the silence against the act that an individual criminal act represents an entire community and not say that that's wrong. We are a community. I think majority of Somalis are actually somewhat independent, or at least that's what I think. But That means politics in America, elections matter, and they come down to fractions of votes. So I think that's important. I think the question we need to ask ourselves is this: most of you have been reporting about these fraud cases. Why hasn't been the first story that came out this story? We were expecting that. We've seen it in the past. Our community has been targeted for everything. Whenever somebody does something, the entire community is blamed. But this is not new. This attack is not new. But for 3 years, the local GOP leaders did not do that, rightfully so. So why are all of a sudden now they're acting like that this is a Somali issue when it is not? And so those are real questions to ask them, and for them to recognize that that this is unfair. And now I'm deeply concerned for my community. We have the majority of attacks against mosques in the nation here. We are also a working class community, poor, still sending some money back home to families, working through the challenges of living. And we know that right now that we are dealing with potential recession and challenges economically. And I'm deeply concerned that this impact and some of the impacts that it'll have, even though I know my community is extremely resilient, this is unfair. And so Minnesotans need to stand up and to tell the truth. And those who are silent, I think we will know where they stand.
Jelani, I've seen and heard a lot of comments on social media that say if someone is here illegally, they should be deported. What are your thoughts on those comments?
I think the only person who can say that is a Native American. Most Native Americans have welcomed everybody. So, this idea that people are illegal is just, I think we are at a moment where if you ask most Americans, they understand what immigration is. Everyone has an immigrant story, except the forced enslavement of African Americans who didn't have a choice, and the Native American here who this is their land and this is the places that their ancestral existed. So. This is the oldest debate about immigration in this country. Both Democrats and Republicans have failed this issue. You can go to a rural city in any part of America, but here in Minnesota, and you will find that the nurses are undocumented. Your factory workers are undocumented. Your grocery workers are undocumented. Those who are building those homes and putting the pipe on the floor are undocumented, but they pay taxes. And their children are growing up in America where they have a future. And so this goes against everything who we are. President Trump is married to an immigrant, and his family also immigrated here one way or the other. So I think this is an attack to try to divide us, to win political points. And here's the thing, these rhetoric, we know how wrong they are, and they eventually will fail because they cannot sustain. And in this moment, we're going to choose love, not hate. And that's one thing we want to encourage people to do. Weaponizing ICE to target black Somali immigrants, this is not immigration policy. This is racism being directed from the president's office.
Jelani, can you speak to what outreach efforts look like for members of the community who don't speak English? And I'm just kind of curious generally how language barriers interact.
Yeah, so we have a lot of, in fact, some of that has been challenging for us. There's a lot of outlets on social media that our community trusts, Somali media and others who have historically provided continuous information engagement. We'll use those. A lot of our people are connected to us. People also even listen to national, international broadcasts like BBC and others who provide information in language. So those outlets are part of that. But what we are doing, what we have historically done, is go to the grassroots. Those are our community organizations, our mosques, and community centers that are significantly also rooted, embedded in our community. So our engagement will continue. We'll continue to remind people of not about just these information with about them protecting them on ICE, but also everything else. We also are worried about the hate on social media and some acts around that, and so we're monitoring all of that right now.
Is that like illegal or unconstitutional just to take people in if they are citizens and just to they later have to show, like, if they're not carrying their passport on themselves but they're being picked up, like, is there anything wrong with that?
So the U.S. immigration law has broad authority, but it's not unlimited. And one fundamental tenet of it is that the U.S. cannot deport a U.S. citizen. That is illegal. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. We know it happens because we don't always have our documents on us. We don't always know our citizenship status because we don't have a clear, fair, accessible, understandable immigration policy. We have an immigration policy that really is premised on exclusion and expulsion, not on making sure that we have fair ways and accessible ways, predictable ways for people to come here, and ways that you can correct mistakes if a clerical error happens, all of those things. For a U.S. citizen to be detained by ICE and thrown into immigration detention is going to result, I think, in civil rights claims. And I think those have been successful so far. Those take a while, of course. Lawsuits are not a remedy for the harm that's done. But certainly, anyone who is a U.S. citizen and can prove that doesn't want to spend days or weeks or months in an ICE detention center somewhere around the country while they scramble to prove that. So if people have their passport card or their enhanced ID, they're able to prove that they're a U.S. citizen. You can hopefully avoid that. That is something that's really important. People who have documentation or people who are in the process of getting documentation also are here, known to the government and going through a lawful process. And the dichotomy of who is illegal and who is not is really just a false one. There is a deportation process.
As that live press conference continues in Minneapolis, we will get to some local news after a break here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Back out here now at 1:20 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We do have an update on breaking news. This is out of the D.C. area. Our content partner saying that one man was indeed killed, another person hurt in a shooting at MGM National Harbor at the National Harbor Hotel and Casino there out of Maryland. This is a live picture right now of the hotel, and we saw a number of first responders and flashing lights surrounding the property there. And then they left this scene for a while. The police chopper left this scene for a while, James, and was on the other side of the river. And they were just sort of going back and forth. But now we're focused back on the hotel from the air.
Yeah, the TV helicopter is giving us these live images again, and this is showing the hotel, which is on the Maryland side of the Potomac, right here in the greater D.C. area. You can see flight tracker on the screen right now. So the TV helicopter that was giving us those live pictures moments ago is right on in here. The hotel is back up near the river, near the Interstate 295, Interstate 485 interchange. This is all outside of Alexandria, Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C. The police helicopter, Jane, and this is what you were referencing, was actually flying over an area further inland from the National Harbor, further inland from where the hotel was. And we weren't quite sure, and we're still not quite sure, why the police helicopter was in one spot and the reported shooting was in another spot. Again, all in that same general vicinity. We're also keeping a close eye on the airspace, because this shooting incident is right between Joint Base Andrews, which handles a lot of military flights, and Ronald Reagan International Airport, which handles a lot of commercial flights. As so far as we can see right now, operations at both of those airports are continuing, so there doesn't seem to be any impact right now to either military or commercial flights, but this is a very tightly held airspace. As we learned during the mid-air collision in January, this is that same general area that has been coming under scrutiny because of the tight airspace. So once again, those live images back from our TV partners there showing the MGM Grand Hotel in that National Harbor area.
All right. Very good. So at least flights into and out of the area are in full operation, normal operation, I should say, as far as we know, although the airspace is quite busy. It usually is anyway. All right. Back out here now at 1:23 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We want to get to some local news because we are learning that there have been some break-ins caught on camera in a Salisbury neighborhood, and this is going to be something that we anticipate seeing, and the lessons can be learned from for other communities because it is that holiday shipping delivery season. So we are checking in with our Jesse Pierre now, who is joining us from the area in Rowan County. And Jesse, I know you've been hitting the pavement, talking to folks out there. What can you tell us at this hour?
Well, I just finished speaking with the Rowan County Sheriff, and, they tell me, like you mentioned, this is the season as we get closer to Christmas and more folks are ordering stuff and gifts are ending up under the tree. You will see more break-ins of homes. You will see more packages stolen from homes and so forth. And so he says there are things that you can do to protect your home and protect your packages. Now, like you mentioned also, Salisbury Police did put out a post and they shared some photos of two individuals wanted for questioning for numerous break-in cases. And this was the Salisbury Police, assuming that it's in the Salisbury area. But when it comes to just overall protecting your home and packages and so forth, this Rowan County Sheriff tells me that most people do have a Ring camera. Make sure that's up and running. If you don't have one, get one. Make sure that it's working. And you can also track packages if you do have things that are being ordered to your homes. Make sure to track them. Try to get them delivered at a time when you are home. Make sure if you aren't going to be home, maybe check in with a neighbor, when something's delivered and if someone can grab it from your home, because the longer it sits there, the more it is at eye view. And a lot of times these are crime of opportunity and folks go and then they try to grab those. He also mentioned, we love the Christmas decorations. We love to have the holiday lights and things like that. But, when your Christmas tree is showing lights next to your window and you have your blinds open and, someone's looking for a crime of opportunity, they might look and see if you have gifts under your tree. So he says, if you're not home, close those blinds. It's just another way to kind of, keep your home from being a target from these thieves. So just a lot of different things. We're going to have more at 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock today and 6 o'clock on things you can do. We also spoke to Amazon. They also share some different ways you can track your packages and make sure to keep your items from being stolen.
Yeah,
pirate porch pirates.
Yeah, porch pirates, exactly. Man, they really strike around this time, the Grinch during the season.
Yes, they do.
Good tips, Jesse. I know yesterday you were in Chesterfield County. We know that the curfew ordinance passed unanimously during that meeting, and that you're staying on top of the other story. And an interesting take on seeking solutions on how to deal with crime and juvenile crime there as well, right?
Absolutely. Everyone I spoke to when I was in Pageland yesterday, were for this curfew, and they just kind of say that this is another way to keep young folks safe, out of trouble. After 11 o'clock at night, some folks were saying that there's no real reason for kids or teenagers to just be out and about doing who knows what, right? And now there were exceptions with this curfew. It is from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. It did pass. But if you are going to and from work, that would be an exception. If you are with an adult or guardian, that would be an exception, or coming from like a supervised event. So, there is some level of flexibility, but the overall goal is to reduce crimes and to keep teens safe, and really the whole community.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, nothing fantastic really happens past 11 p.m. anyway, right? Certainly not worth it. All right. Stay out of danger.
Exactly.
Stay safe. All right, Jesse Pierre, thank you for joining us. We'll see you on WCNC Charlotte News at 4. Appreciate you. All right, right now we want to get out to Atlanta. A live feed coming now. This is a mayor's event, press conference happening. The mayor, as well as other partners, marking the opening of the Waterworks Village. Let's go ahead and listen in on Live Impact News.
With the Waterworks Village, we're turning an underutilized city asset into a life-changing opportunity for our most vulnerable Atlantans. This is what innovation looks like. It's the public service, and specifically want to thank the commissioner for allowing us to take a little piece of the home. Under Mayor's leadership last year, Invest Atlanta announced $60 million in a homeless opportunity bond and affordable housing trust fund dollars to support housing developments just like this one. By mobilizing city-owned land, we're reducing the cost, accelerating timelines, and providing creative partnerships that are solving some of these very difficult and hard issues. Every unit we build not only stabilizes households, it reduces the public cost tied to emergency services such as healthcare and other crisis response. The Waterworks Village will complement the surrounding neighborhoods, demonstrating how compassionate housing solutions can be thoughtfully integrated into Atlanta's broader growth. A thriving Atlanta is an inclusive Atlanta. When we create pathways out of the homelessness, we strengthen our workforce, our local economy, and Atlanta's shared future. Investing in homelessness can yield significant economic benefits for our community. By providing housing support services, we can reduce the strain on emergency services, ultimately lowering the cost to our taxpayers. From housing to small business development to jobs, Invest Atlanta takes a comprehensive approach to economic development and community building. This includes more than $160 million of new capital investments in the last 5 years, within 1 mile of where I'm standing today. If we look at all of these investments together, of Invest Atlanta projects, they total an economic impact of over $1.6 billion in the community since 2019. Thank you. The Waterworks Village shows what's possible when we choose courage over complacency. To every partner, advocate, and resident, thank you for believing in the vision. Together, we are providing that meaningful progress is not just possible.
All right, you're watching live the Atlanta Mayor's press conference on a new housing project there in Atlanta. I want to get you out to a ground shot now. There's a live picture of what's happening out of the Maryland area. We told you about police activity at the MGM Hotel and Casino, National Guard, and this taking place now with one person confirmed killed, another one seriously hurt. So looking at some live images there from the scene with the investigation and cleanup, ensuing cleanup that will be taking place. We assume that's going to be there throughout the afternoon. All right, let's go ahead and take a break now on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Back with more news and an update on the tennis invitational to Charlotte after the break. We'll be right back. At 1:33 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Tennis, anyone? It's coming to the Queen City, the second annual Charlotte Invitational happening tomorrow night in Charlotte. But you know what? They got to do a lot of work to prepare for all that and bring in special names and, I mean, really big-time names. Miles Harris is here in the Live Impact studio. This is your assignment today. So who'd you get to talk to?
So I got to talk to at least some of the organizers with Charlotte Sports Foundation to kind of dove into some of the prep work it takes to putting, which honestly is crazy to think about. They're turning what is inside Spectrum Center, that basketball court, they literally flip that and make it a tennis court. And so the conversions with that and kind of getting some of the details, but also what can fans expect when they actually get into Spectrum Center. Maybe they're watching it from TV. We saw the display of it last year was absolutely amazing. They were able to put the crown from Charlotte into the actual tennis court. Nice little blue as well to kind of go with it, a little royal blue, but it was just a really, really cool thing to see last year as far as the amount of people that were in attendance for this exhibition matches, I should say, and as they look forward to doing that again this year.
Well, I mean, the Charlotte Sports Foundation are responsible for bringing it here, and I mean, really, what does it mean to bring, besides football and basketball, other sports here to Charlotte?
You're actually, you're already kind of saying it, though. It's just another opportunity for them to add another sport to their resume, right? They've done a great job when it comes to whether it's the Duke Mayo's Bowl. They already had the Invitational with basketball, with college basketball, bringing Duke into town. So now they get a chance to add another event, sporting event necessarily as well, and even getting some big names like you mentioned. I mean, seeing guys like Francis Tiafoe play in this as well. We saw Madison Keys even hint at last year trying to even look at maybe even buying a house into Charlotte. Nice. And now you've also add literally a Hall of Famer at this point with Venus Williams coming into town as well. And so getting them a chance to display their talents, but also giving Charlotte an opportunity to display what we can offer. Maybe if tennis becomes more of a tradition, whether it's the Invitational or whether they actually tried to build off of this. I didn't get the answer to that question.
Oh, okay.
Not yet, at least.
Okay.
Not yet, at least. But it definitely seems like it's something that they're trying to do because, I mean, like, this is something that's going to be nationally televised as well. So they want to make sure that this is looking as good as it can be. And if it looks anything like we saw last year, it's going to be pretty good as well.
All right, so you got a sneak peek. What do you think?
I mean, listen, I'm not.
You're
You're asking a kid that grew up playing
Yeah.
tennis since the age of like 7. So anything
Love
with a
it.
tennis court and a tennis net and everything is going to be happy for me. But again, seeing these names come out here, especially guys like Francis Tiafoe, and even seeing Madison Keys come back, lets you know that Charlotte did something right.
It's,
so
yeah, it
we
means
got to keep it
business.
going.
All
Exactly,
right.
exactly.
Very cool. And you should do some more ones with Miss Venus. That'd be cool.
If I get lucky enough, I will be able to sit down and chat with
Do a little
Venus.
volley.
Exactly. But it's fun. Like I said, it's a cool opportunity for Charlotte to showcase that they're not just a basketball or a football city, that they can introduce or really even hold or host any other sporting event. So it's a great opportunity for that.
Excellent. All right, Miles Harris on Tennis Invitation. I forgot Charlotte FC as well. You know, might as well. Soccer and tennis, football, basketball.
All of it, right? Just add them all.
Baseball, whatever.
Yeah.
All of it. All right. Thank you, Miles. We will see you at 4 o'clock.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you then. Sounds good. Back here now without Miles. He's busy thinking about his next match, I should say. Tennis match. I played for a second. Let's see. Let's go back to James. Where should we going back to? Let's go back.
Go to our winter interview.
Yes, our winter interview with IBHS.
That's right.
All right. So this is what James recorded earlier today, and you want to set this up?
Yes, so IBHS is the Insurance Institute for Business Home Safety. They're located in Chester County, South Carolina, right between Charlotte and Columbia. They do full-size science experiments, Jane, to help keep our homes safe from Mother Nature. This might
Yep.
be exactly what I'm about to intro in the video. I might be repeating myself,
That's
but
okay.
we just talked to
It's
them.
worth repeating.
Yeah, we just talked to them about 2 hours ago about how you can keep cold temperatures out of your house.
All right. Here's that interview previously or recorded for you now on WCNC Plus.
The cold weather season is upon us, and that means trying to keep the temperature up in your home while keeping your power bill down. And the Carolinas is home to the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. And with their lab right here in South Carolina, scientists stress test full-size homes up against the power of Mother Nature. Joining us now is meteorologist Rachel Gauthier, who's going to help us stay warm without paying too much this winter. Rachel, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. So the cold weather, it is here. It has come on quite suddenly, and I know my heat is on at home. So what are some of the things people can do to protect their homes and their assets this time of year from the seasonal hazards?
Yeah, well, lots of different things, lots of different components of the home. I would say start with the roof. If you're familiar with our research at IBHS, we do a ton of research on the roof, different roofing materials, how to strengthen your roof against the various elements. So we say the roof is the home's first line of defense. So just making sure your roof is in shape for the winter season. Obviously, we're no stranger to things like severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, a hurricane every now and then. And winter weather can do damage too. It's not just about those scarier storms. Winter weather brings wind and rain and extreme temperatures, precipitation. So I would say three different things concerning your roof is, one, make sure it's in good repair. Check for like missing and broken shingles. Those can let water into your house, and nobody wants that. That usually leads to a cascade of damage. So just repairing any shingles that could be damaged. The second thing is any trees that might overhang your house. In the event that we have ice or even strong winds, any branches hanging over your roof could break off, land on your roof, do damage. So just trimming those back, make sure there's nothing, hanging over your roof. And then the last thing is just something simple, which is cleaning out gutters and downspouts, right? You want those to be clear of that leaf and pine straw, tree debris from the fall season, and make sure that, any water that hits your roof can drain away from your roof and out those gutters and downspouts. So you don't want those to cause any backups into your roof. So 3 really simple things concerning your roof that you should definitely think about doing before, we get into the heart of the winter season.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about those downspouts and runoff, because a couple days this week in our forecast. We'll have rain, but then we'll have those freezing temperatures that kind of mix in. I know I've already had to start to defrost my car, and it got me thinking as I was sitting there waiting for the ice to defrost off my windshield. I wonder where all that water runoff went yesterday, and did it seep into cracks in my home? And what happens, Rachel, if we get moisture in and then the temperatures drop?
Yeah, if you get moisture in and the temperatures drop, in extreme cases, that can lead to things like ice dams on your roof, where you have that water kind of trapped underneath some of those layers, kind of freezing and refreezing, and eventually it's going to melt, so that water can make its way through your roof, through those, your roof deck has gaps and cracks in the roof decking, and if the water makes its way under that underlayment and through those gaps and cracks, you can end up with water in your attic. You could also end up with water in your house, gaps and cracks around windows and doors, things that might need to be recaulked to keep that water out of your home and that cold air out of your home as well, keeping it better insulated. So certainly kind of looking into those aspects and making sure that you take care of that before the winter precip and the cold temperatures set in.
Besides trying to keep the water out and the cold out, what are things I can do to keep my heat inside my home?
Yeah, well, sealing up any openings to the outside is going to go a long way, not just to keeping the water out, but to keeping the warm air in, right? That's going to make sure.
All right, we are going to put a pause in James's recorded interview on winter hazards, because we want to get out to Washington, D.C. Breaking news right now. An update press conference taking place after a shooting at the MGM National Harbor Casino. Let's listen in.
Yes, we can confirm that.
Someone was grazed.
No, we can confirm that no one else was injured.
Is the victim by himself, herself?
Yes, male.
What can you tell us about the security in place in the food court area?
That you would have to probably ask MGM what security is in place, Prince George's County Police. We do patrol MGM, parking lot, casino, food court area, like we patrol everywhere else within Prince George's County.
A message to the community. Some people say they're seeing more young people show up here at the casino. Maybe concerned now.
We haven't seen more young people show up at the casino, but MGM is safe. The harbor is safe. This was a targeted incident. We believe that it would have folded out anywhere once these two individuals came into the same area. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Brian, anything more today?
No.
And are we okay with MGM to be here?
Yes.
It appears a quick update on the situation out of Maryland, where one person was killed in a shooting at the MGM hotel there in near Oxon, Maryland, near the Alexandria, Virginia, right across the river. So what he said, everybody's safe, the hotel is safe, the harbor is safe. Let's get you back to the recorded interview with James and the meteorologist for IHBC.
HVAC system is running efficiently. Things like changing out the filter in your HVAC system, any kind of regular maintenance that you should do to keep it running efficiently, that's going to help with that power bill as well. And then, the other aspect, of course, is pipes and making sure those are properly insulated. That's going to go a long way in making sure that your home stays in good condition during the winter months, making sure pipes are insulated. Here in the Carolinas, homes aren't necessarily built to withstand these prolonged freezing temperatures. So if we have something like that, you want to make sure pipes on exterior walls are insulated. Outside, hose bibs, those water spigots, you can get those really inexpensive foam covers, making sure those are covered up during the winter months. And then, things like leaving the cabinets open to let that warm air circulate around your pipes, and leaving, the pipes drip as well. That's another good way to keep those pipes protected, and making sure your thermostat is set on a good temperature. 55 is really the minimum temperature you would want your heater set at in the event that you're out of town or something, to really keep your house just warm enough so that you don't have any issues with pipes or anything like that.
I was afraid for a moment you were going to suggest I set it to 55 while I'm inside, and I'm like, that sounds so cold.
No, definitely not. Some people, we all want to save on our heating bill when we're out of town for the holidays, right? But don't completely turn it off. Leave it on 55 minimum to make sure that the pipes stay warm and you don't have any issues while you're out of town.
Is there anything someone could do I want to make sure this is applicable to them too. If they're watching and maybe they rent their property, so they're not a homeowner, so the things they can control might be a little bit more limited. Are there things that could be applied to a rental space as well?
Yeah, that's a really great question, especially because usually the homeowner is maybe often in charge of some of that maintenance. So keeping up with regular maintenance, whether you want to step in and do that or you want to ask your landlord to do it, that's something you can do. Another thing that's really fairly inexpensive when it comes to, like freezing temperatures and water damage, they have water sensors you can get on Amazon. You may not be the property owner, but for $20 or $30, you can put those sensors underneath the pipes in your home, and if you're out of town or you're at work or whatever, it'll send you an alert to your smartphone and it'll let you know that you have a water leak. So that's something you can do really to protect your own belongings that may be inside that rental home. So it's a really simple thing. And then the other thing, that this is not specifically winter weather related, we recommend this for winter and all perils, is having a home inventory, right? If you're a renter, you're going to have renter's insurance. If you're a homeowner, you're going to have homeowner's insurance. But either way, if you sustain damage, whether it's water intrusion because of a leaky roof or a busted pipe, or whether it's severe thunderstorm damage or whatever, you need to inventory the items in your home. So if you do have to file a claim with your insurance, you've got to be able to prove, what was in your home and the condition that it was in. So doing things like documenting your belongings, your big ticket items, appliances, exercise equipment, whatever it is, do that. There's apps. I have an app that I use that it lets me upload photos and videos and label each room of the home. You can also just take a walkthrough video on your phone and then just save that. That's gonna save you a lot of trouble in the long run in the event that you do have to file some type of insurance claim.
Rachel, you mentioned earlier that hail could also be a problem with my roof, and I feel like a lot of times with winter we think about snow, we think about ice, but we're not thinking about ice balls or hail. But I guess we can get severe weather any time of year here in the Carolinas, it feels like. So what are things I can do to protect myself against that type of frozen hazard?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Again, going back to the general home maintenance, that's going to be applicable for hail as well. We also have the program called Fortified. You've probably heard us talk about that as well. We're a big proponent of that Fortified program to protect against hail damage. There are special shingles, actually, that we rate here at IBHS. We shoot real hailstones at them in our hail lab, and we find out how they stand up to hailstones. And there are shingles that do much better than others and much worse than others when it comes to standing up against hail. So if hail is a big concern, this is obviously not one of the simple steps, but more of a bigger investment. But in the event that you're re-roofing, choosing one of the shingles that's on our list that's rated good or excellent is something we really recommend to protecting against hail. And then, if you're not ready to re-roof, just simple things like a roof inspection. Have a roofer come out and make sure you don't have missing or broken shingles as well. So because in the event that you get hail or wind, that could further damage your roof, and it all goes back to allowing that water to get into your house. And I mentioned Fortified earlier. That's something that takes care of that issue where you put some tape over those seams and seal it up, and that really prevents most of the water from getting into your home. But a couple of different options there, whether you're ready for a bigger investment or some of those just simpler steps like simply inspecting your roof.
You mentioned roofs, Rachel, and I was on my roof last weekend putting up Christmas lights, and I was looking at my shingles, and I was like, okay, they look pretty good. I don't see any sort of hail damage. So those are the types of things I remember talking about and seeing at the lab and then trying to bring back around over to the real world. But I hadn't thought much about my gutters, and you talked about ice dams. Can you talk us through what an ice dam is and what I should be doing to prepare my home to prevent them?
Yeah, so an ice dam, and I'm probably not going to get this exactly right because I was born and raised in the South, but an ice dam is basically when you get winter precipitation, and at some point, it melts because of fluctuating temperatures and then refreezes, and it's really kind of where the moisture gets trapped between your underlayment, which is underneath your roof cover, and like your roof deck, and you often get it, sort of like in the different kind of crevices where your roof meets and you have the different facing slopes, and that's oftentimes where you see that water kind of build up, and so it freezes and it sort of dams up underneath your roof, and then eventually those temperatures are going to go above freezing, and when that happens you start to see that water melting, and because of the fact that the moisture is trapped, it can make its way through your roof deck and into your home. And I was working in Louisiana a few years back, and we had the big 2021 winter storm, and I had actually never heard of an ice dam until that point, because again, worked in a lot of locations in the South, but we had dozens and dozens and dozens of homeowners who found out what an ice dam is with that winter storm. That was the same one that affected Texas. So yeah, having that refreezing, that back and forth, and letting that moisture kind of make its way into your roof is what an ice dam basically is, and it can cause a lot of damage to your roof.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm from New York, coastal New York, so like not upstate New York, but the term ice dam was new to me too. So that's why I'm glad we talked about it, because my thought process was exactly what you described there, is that if Louisiana and Texas can get this situation now as the weather and climate is changing, it seems like we all could be prepared for it, especially if, who knows, maybe we move to the mountains and here in the Carolinas introduce ourselves to a whole new climate. So all these things we have to, I guess, kind of think about and consider here.
We had record-breaking blizzards on the Gulf Coast last year with feet of snow. Didn't think I'd see that in my lifetime, but I think we had 5 or 6 inches of snow in my hometown of Mobile, which 5 or 6 feet of snow, in Mobile, which is insane. So.
And we'll get a weather check after the break here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. At 1:54 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. It's a good thing we talked about, those hazards that can be done to your home because of this wintry weather. We've got more on the way. Our Larry Sprinkle back in the weather hot seat, doing a little hit for us during the midday. Let's play this for you now and see what we can look forward to this week on WCNC Plus.
we're looking at mainly rain. As you go along the I-40 corridor, we see the potential for some of that wintry mix, especially from, say, Statesville all the way to the high country. This takes us to 6 a.m. on Friday morning. Notice just north of Charlotte could be a little wintry mix over there. That would include places like Mooresville, and then you get into areas along Interstate 77 northbound. We see that wintry mess. I think just mainly a cold rain here. This takes us about 9 a.m. Friday. Along the border of Virginia, North Carolina, that would be some snow out there. Maybe a little bit of an icy mix around Statesville to Lincolnton. That's around 9 a.m. on Friday, and then we get to the afternoon. That system is gone and out of here. But the temperatures stay way below where they should be. In fact, by the evening in the mid-30s. As far as any futurecast ice potential, we take a look into Friday. We do see that. And once again, we keep talking about the I-40 corridor. That's where you see that fine line between, say, the freezing mark and slightly above that. So we could see some icy conditions Friday anywhere from Hickory to Salisbury all the way over towards the Raleigh-Durham area. That would be Friday. So as far as our rain chances over the next several days, dry weather today and again tomorrow, Friday, it's likely, especially in the morning. So if you have travel plans on Friday, that morning commute could be a real messy situation all the way until about noontime. Saturday morning, maybe a couple of showers. We're putting maybe about a 20% chance, and there could be a couple scattered showers around the area on Sunday. Dry weather on Monday and Tuesday of next week as we show you what's going to happen as far as high temperatures today. Way below where they should be. We had about 49 here. Up around the Boone, Blowing Rock area, low 40s there. Down to the Palmetto State, Lancaster hits about 49. 51 over in Schwa there in South Carolina. And that's as far as your high temperatures. And then overnight tonight, dropping down to the upper 20s and low 30s across most of the entire area. Here we go. Here's that Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. For today, we're about 49. Tomorrow, with some clouds around, we top out at 52 degrees. Whole different situation. We are certainly weather alert on Friday. Friday morning especially could be that wintry mess, especially along the I-40 corridor. 39 degrees. That's as high as we get on Friday. Early on Saturday morning, just the slightest chance of a shower. We hit about 46 degrees on Saturday. Sunday afternoon, we'll see a couple showers in the forecast. High should be at 47 degrees. Monday and Tuesday next week, it's going to be cold low. Monday morning 34. Look at Tuesday morning's low. 29 degrees high, about 46 degrees. That's your forecast. Hope you have a nice day.
He didn't skip a beat, just like getting on a bike. Our Larry Sprinkle doing the weather for us this week in the midday on WCNC Charlotte. You could see him always with Adopt a Pets and other community events for WCNC Charlotte. We love it. All right, have you seen deer lately? Yeah, oh dear, I know. The streets, your neighborhoods, I love when I see them. They look so sweet and just, you know, one with nature, and it feels like you can touch them and they'll smile at you, but might not be a good idea. You might just want to leave them alone. I don't know. Megan Bragg is here in the Live Impact studio now, looking at this story where what people are trying to entertain the notion of deer as pets. What's up with that?
You know, Jane and I can be completely wrong here, but I feel like as we continue to treat our animals kind of like our own family members,
yeah.
I think that people are starting to try to treat other animals that way as well, which, you know, it's always good to be nice to animals, but sometimes wild animals need to be left as wild animals. The reason that we are doing this story is because there's been several reports in several different counties, Iredell, Rockingham, Randolph, Wilkes, Onslow, Cherokee counties, where attacks from deer have happened. So there was a release that went out saying, you know, they're seeing more deer attacks, and that's because people are being not kinder to deer, but treating them like they are a part of the family,
and try to pet them like a dog.
Exactly. And so, you know, the issue with this is when deer are usually afraid of humans because they don't have interaction with humans. When they start having interaction with humans, they're not so afraid, right? So, the specific case was a 70-year-old woman in Wilkes County. She was gored at her mailbox by a deer.
Oh my.
She was sent to the hospital, so she suffered injuries there. And so basically we wanted to look at what's legal, what's not legal as far as it goes to wildlife and deer in general. It is illegal to keep deer as pets. And it's illegal to keep any wildlife as pets, right?
Right.
You're supposed to keep them out in the wild. That's what they know. That's where they should be, right? That's where they thrive. And so when people take them in and treat them like pets and then let them out in the wild again, or, they keep coming back for food or something, that's when they start getting these habits of, I'm not scared. I'm a 200-pound deer and I am not scared at all. So it is not illegal to feed them, but experts are saying, this is why they're having issues with people being attacked, because these deer are used to people feeding them. So you do not want to feed deer. You do not want to feed wildlife. And if you do want to help in some way, maybe if you live near woods, maybe have some bird feed or whatever out there, but you don't want to interact closely with these deer.
Okay. And we have an overpopulation of deer.
Overpopulation.
Which is so people think by taking them in.
Exactly.
And it might be okay.
Deer are wonderful animals, and I think we should all be kind to them and everything, but let them be deer.
Let them be deer.
They are not a dog.
Right, yeah. There's no, like a stray deer
Yes.
hanging in the city, on city streets,
Exactly.
which we are beginning to see.
We are seeing that a lot, and, and we're seeing these attacks. Now, it is very rare to have a deer attack you, so I don't want people thinking, be on the lookout for a deer attack, but it is happening, and it is happening because some people are treating them like they're pets and feeding them, and
like you're trying to pet them and
yes,
feed them
exactly.
directly.
Yes, exactly. So
okay.
Yep.
So then, if you do see deer around your property, you just want to leave them alone.
Leave them alone
at the end of the day.
Yep,
All right.
absolutely.
And adore them from a distance.
Yes.
All
Bambi
right.
is cute, just not cute in your house or on a leash or.
Yeah, and it's not allowed. So
it's illegal.
You cannot have deer as a pet. Oh my dear. All right.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. All right, Megan Bragg.
Yeah,
see you
thank
at
you.
4. Thanks
Yes,
for coming in, hanging out here in the Live Impact studio. See ya. Let's see. At 2:01, let's go ahead and take a quick break on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Back here now on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Time right now is 2:03, and some of the families of the victims from the UPS crash out of Lexington, Kentucky, held a press conference today saying that they are suing the company, the shipping company, because of what happened. Let's go ahead and continue to play this press conference that wrapped up out moments ago here on Live Impact News.
It's something that are words to live by. They say that justice delayed is justice denied. Every day that you wait to take action in a legal case can cause evidence to disappear, can cause information to grow old, and to cause memories to fade by the people that are most involved. And the longer you wait, the more it only helps the people that caused the crash, because it's less fresh in everyone's mind, people's memories fade. The sooner we can get this case to justice, the better off it'll be for the victims. The longer that this case takes to come to fruition, the better and the more it helps the people that caused it. So, like I say, justice delayed is justice denied, and there's no reason to delay it here.
Outside of the obvious win that you're seeking, what is the best case scenario for how you hope a case like this can change the systems that you are looking into as for why this crash happened?
That's an excellent question, thank you. If you look currently at the emergency airworthy directives that have come from the FAA, these planes, both MD-11s and all DC-10s, are all grounded. They're grounded throughout the United States, and there was recently a letter that was sent by Bill Moore, the president of UPS Airlines, who indicated that rather than these planes being kind of grounded, if you will, for weeks, which I think was UPS's original feeling, that these are actually going to be grounded for months. And what does that tell us? The fact that it's going to take months to make sure that these planes are safe and airworthy means that there's lots of things that need to be fixed on these planes if they're ever going to get back in the sky. And for right now, step one of grounding all these planes is a step in the right direction. Step two of making sure the planes are safe to be in the air are great steps, but unfortunately step two in this case is too late, and it comes too late, and it comes after a time where a tragedy has already happened. The point of these types of systems in place are to make sure that you're getting ahead of tragedy, not trying to do what we call in this world graveyard engineering. Trying to fix these problems after the fact does not in any way fix the harms and losses that happen to our clients, the harms and losses that happened to the 14 different deaths and to the countless others that were injured and affected by this crash. We're here to make sure that they get the justice that they deserve, and that others similarly situated to the people that are here in this room get their day in court.
Are there any other questions from anybody?
Tracy, you had mentioned that you guys are going beyond the investigation of what had happened and looking at how this, in your words, unairworthy aircraft was allowed to fly. What does that type of discovery look like? What does that investigation entail?
Sure. Our investigation will involve using the legal process, which is now available to us since we have filed this lawsuit, to obtain documents which are currently not publicly available, documents which are being submitted by the various defendants in this case to the NTSB as part of that investigation, as well as other documents that we believe may exist, records related specifically to this aircraft, records related to the MD-11 model aircraft and known problems with that aircraft that are in the possession of all of the various defendants in this case, taking testimony from various individuals who were involved in this aircraft at their various entities, talking to experts in the industry about the airworthiness requirements of an aircraft like this one, as well as how to assess and determine whether or not an aircraft should be continuing to operate, in whatever condition that it's in. So that's kind of a broad overview of what that investigation entails.
Sometimes they talk about the powers of litigation. If you take, for instance, a victim in a crash like this, most people look at the victims as helpless, right? They're not huge companies. They're not multi-billion-dollar businesses like the people that we're up against in the case. They don't have all of those powers. They're helpless people. And what the power of a lawsuit does is it takes the helpless and it puts power in their hands. And there's really 4 powers that you get by filing a lawsuit. You have, number 1, subpoena power. Subpoena power allows us to issue something called the subpoena duces tecum that allows us to get documents from others. We can get documents that aren't available to the helpless now that we have subpoena power. Number 2, we have something called requests to produce in discovery. Those are document requests that go out to the individuals that are involved, the defendants in the case. That allows us to get all of the documents and materials that otherwise these helpless victims would not be able to get. If I called Boeing up tomorrow and said, please voluntarily turn over all of the maintenance records that you have involved with this plane, do you think that they would send it to me voluntarily? Do you think they would send it to you, the press? No. The power of litigation gives it the strength, the helpless the strength, to actually make the court get in order that the defendants have to give us the documents so that we can tell you what really happened here. Number 3, the third power that you get with a lawsuit, is you have the right to have something called interrogatories. An interrogatory is a written question that needs to be answered under oath. The power of getting answers under oath are subject to perjury. They have to answer the questions with honesty, with full diligence, and they have to give you answers to information that otherwise they wouldn't have to answer if you call them up on the phone.
And we're going to take a break here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. More on Charlotte local news when we come back. We'll be right back. .212 on Live Impact News here on WCNC Plus. And this afternoon, as we look ahead, the premiere of a powerful documentary called Charlotte 7. It's tomorrow night. And right now we are joined by Reverend Dr. Julia Robinson Moore and Reverend Ricky Moore to discuss their work in really restoring the dignity to forgotten African American burial grounds around our city. Thanks you two for joining us here in the Live Impact studio.
Glad to be here.
Let's talk about the impetus of this project, which took place many years ago. How did this begin? Who wants to take that question?
I'll start.
Okay.
I'm also a university professor at UNC Charlotte, and I was looking for my next book project. And I'm also an ordained Presbyterian minister in the Presbyterian Church USA. And I had been preaching around Charlotte for the last 20 years and noticed that there were segregated burial grounds. And some of the African American sides of those segregated burial grounds were in disrepair. And communities, both black and white, were looking to come together and restore them. So that's how the project got started.
Wow. What compelled you to take action? I mean, there's something about observing this, and it's an interesting facet to the Charlotte area's history, of course, but really taking this into a proactive action and making a documentary.
Well, the documentary came in as a surprise. I was finding just a handful of people at Charlotte's local Presbyterian churches who were really interested in reaching across the divide, if you will, and building community across race. And so Black and white Presbyterian churches are uniquely positioned here in the city because they have a shared history. And they just kind of compelled me to work with them to bring restoration and dignity to, and then the other interesting thing is that many African Americans here in the city of Charlotte can trace their ancestry to these forgotten burial sites.
Yeah, what has the feedback been in the process of doing this?
It's been pretty positive, I would say. There's lots of surprises that people are they kind of forgotten of some of them about the burial sites. They're like hidden in plain sight. But once they become aware, there is community energy around facing that history and building a different future together and talking about it.
And bringing this to your church, Ricky, how is it to be involved with something like this, personally part of this journey?
Yeah, so we, one of the things that we do, even in preparation for this, is a fair amount of prayer. And we want to be sure that what we're doing and what we're saying is consistent with the teachings of not just the church, but New Testament scripture. We're following the Lord. And our findings have been that the churches have been very receptive to that. Recognizing the unity that they have in Jesus has really been something that they've been rallying around, both black and white churches. And when I say black and white, I'm talking about predominantly black congregants versus predominantly white congregants. And so in that regard, they've been very receptive.
Yeah. Working with a diverse team as well, architects, students, historians, bringing this mission together. How were you able to accomplish that?
Well, first I'm looking over here because my husband and my ministry partner is my partner.
Yeah. So we, one of the things that I've done over the years is I've led a diverse group of project managers in my corporate background. And so when Julia started talking to me more about the project and we really felt like we were being led to move this way, I decided I would be the project manager for it. And so we've been running the project like you would a construction project that you would be doing at any organization or business. So when we pull together the students, when we pull together the architects, when we pull together the vendors that are doing the ground penetrating radar, we're bringing those disciplines together that we've kind of leveraged, that I've leveraged, if you will, from working in corporate America for so many years. Now I'm retired and I'm fully focused on the ministry, but prior to that, I had quite a team of project managers I worked with. So.
Yeah, it's good to bring all those experiences, though, into a passion project such as this.
Yeah.
You mentioned, that a lot of these things that people forgot about and they were hiding in plain sight. How is that possible in Charlotte?
Wow, so that's such a great question. The city of Charlotte, I've been here for 20 years. I feel like I am a Charlottean, and it's such a beautiful city with wonderful communities. However, it has a rich and often complicated history. And so lots of the new development that you see are built alongside or sometimes on top of these really historic sites that hold lots of untold stories. And so bringing the communities together to tell a fuller story of the city of Charlotte is one of the goals of this documentary. and also a team of partnerships. UNC Charlotte is one of those partners, but so many genealogists and archaeological people, as well as just community leaders, are stepping up, joining hands to tell the truth of Charlotte, but also to tell the new vision of unity and togetherness for the city.
Sounds like more of a positive thing, the takeaway from this project for all Charlotteans. What can people outside looking in learn from what you have done for the past 4 years?
Well, I'll just start. From the outside looking in, I'm a historian. I'm also a minister, but I'm totally trained as a historian. So outside looking in, you're looking at maybe an untold history of the city of Charlotte, of Presbyterianism, of Protestantism in the city. But you're also looking at this new and creative way that communities are coming together to build partnership around telling the truth, but envisioning a future together.
Love it.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that is just that, the lives of the formerly enslaved people that we're attempting to memorialize, I mean, they never had anyone speak for them. And there are descendants of those formerly enslaved people who, many of them are still going to the churches today. So there's this opportunity for connection and for, if you will, a measure of closure just around the humanity of the formerly enslaved people. And there's this genuineness in both of the, when I say both of the communities, whether it's a majority black or majority white, there's this togetherness that they have around, hey, yeah, the story's tough, but at the same time, we really are brothers and sisters in the Lord. How can we walk this out together? And so there's a lot of hope on both sides of the aisle, if you will, in making this happen. So,
yeah, I mean, beyond restoration, this is really a lesson in reconciliation.
Yes.
What does that look like in practice?
I can share one little quick story. One of the descendants from the so most black Presbyterian churches are descended from Charlotte 7 predominantly white Presbyterian churches started in the colonial period. One of those descendants was looking for her ancestor from the black churches, and she met a person from the predominantly white church and realized that not only were they connected by their shared church history, they were also connected by family history. By blood. And so those are some of the ways that community is being built. Families are discovering one another. And this particular family now, they have family reunions where they invite a part of the family, the African American family that had been left out of their family history. And so it's an interracial family reunion now.
Wow, that's good. Yeah. What do you hope people are going to take away if they see Charlotte 7 tomorrow?
So there's quite a bit of unique things in the film, one of which is an opportunity that my wife, Julia, shares around a prayer, an applied spirituality practice. And I think our hope is that people will see how much the Lord really, and I say the Lord, I'm talking the Lord Jesus really loves all of us, and he meets us right where we are. And even in the difficult issues of something like this, there's things that can come out of it that can be very beautiful and can be very uplifting. So we're hoping that people, I'll just speak for myself, I'm hoping that people will watch the film and will look at it and realize, yeah, it's tough history, but you know what? I actually feel hopeful from this. I actually feel like we can move forward and have a more positive future from this. One of the things that we emphasize through this entire process of the project is that there is no shame, there's no guilt, there's no condemnation. There's only this embracing of who we are and how do we work better together going forward. So, yeah.
All right, optimism. Julia, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I do. No one would think that hidden cemeteries, neglected cemeteries would be relational tools for community building. But this is what we're doing, and the documentary that people will see, even though it's short, it will give reverence, if you will, to the ways in which historical spaces that are full of hard stories can be bridge builders, that you can tell the truth in a way that brings communities together as opposed to pull them apart. And I think that the documentary and the project and our nonprofit is attempting to do that for our communities here in the city of Charlotte. So
it's beautiful, and it's a testament to the strength of Charlotte and what can be done by facing the truth, and again, no guilt, like you said. How can people get involved or see? You know, I know we're just one day out and it's kind of last minute, but people can still watch this premiere.
Right. Yeah, and if they want to come to the live event tomorrow at Providence Presbyterian Church here in Charlotte, we'll start at 7 p.m. sharp. Also, More Grace Ministries is our ministry, and they can look us up on the website, and they can find out more information about the film, about us, about what we're doing with our Pathways to Peace project, which is really the overall umbrella project that's caring for the Charlotte 7 film and the work that we're doing in the city. So they can look us up that way.
All right. Very good. Charlotte 7 tomorrow night at 7. The community is invited. There is a panel as well where you can discuss more and really go into a deep dive on what this means. Such a powerful picture. And from the images I see, it looks like your 4 years of work will pay off in spades. Appreciate you both, Reverend Dr. Julia Robinson Moore and Reverend Ricky Moore, More Grace Ministries. Appreciate you guys coming in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be back on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. At 2:28 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, we're going to take you out to Washington, D.C. right now, where this is a Senate hearing on children in Russia. Senator speaking right now. Let's go ahead and listen in for a little bit here on Live Impact News.
Such deliberate evil can never be an option for any of us. We have a responsibility and, more importantly, a moral obligation as human beings to make sure we take action here. And that begins with sending the following message to the Russian Federation. If you continue to kidnap Ukraine's children, and if you refuse to return every single last one of them home, you will bear the full weight of being recognized for what you have become, which is a state sponsor of terror. The bipartisan bill put forth by Senator Graham and several of his colleagues is a necessary first step, but it certainly cannot be the last. Congress can and must come together without further delay to sanction every single element of Vladimir Putin's regime. Every official, every institution, every entity complicit in Russia's assault against Ukraine must be held to account. And moreover, our adversaries must also be put on notice that if you enable the abduction of Ukraine's children or bankroll the slaughter of innocent Ukrainian civilians, the United States will hold you accountable. I want to thank Ukraine's ambassador to the United States for her partnership, for highlighting the urgency of this issue, of the staggering disregard in which Russia has for its human rights. And Mr. Chair, Mr. Ranking Member, we are reliving some of the most horrific parts of history, things that we thought were permanently relegated to the history books. When Germany invaded Poland September 1st of 1939, there were a lot of officials throughout the world that said it's a regional conflict. We don't want to provoke. We don't want to escalate. And what has history taught us? That a problem that could have been nipped in the bud early, because it was not, turned out to be the costliest and deadliest war in world history, where we had to send our own children to die on Omaha Beach. Those are the lessons of history. The decisions of Neville Chamberlain and the decisions of his successor, Winston Churchill, vastly different approaches that led to vastly different outcomes. And yet here we are today having that very same debate when history has already answered this question for us. When it comes to democracies standing up against dictators, there are two choices. There are two options. There's peace through strength, and there's war through weakness. There is no magical third option. And history has recorded the decisions of our predecessors. History will now record our decisions and our actions here today. So let's make sure that we make the next generation that's reading about our actions here today proud of the decisions we made. And that starts with standing up for every single last Ukrainian child that's been abducted, never letting them leave our mind for 1 second, and work tirelessly and insist that every last one of them come home to their families. I yield back.
Thank you all for testifying. I know you've got a lot to do. We'll have the second panel. Senator Britt's been mentioned a couple of times. She's the original co-sponsor of this legislation with Senator Blumenthal and Klobuchar to make Russia a state sponsor of terrorism. So if you want to.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you and the ranking member holding this hearing. I hope that this goes to the heart of every parent across our nation. Everyone. I mean, think about your child being ripped from your arms. Think about not knowing where your kids are on their birthday or milestones or tragic experiences. You've just heard Senator others talk about torture. Talk about having to undergo surgery with no anesthesia. Talk about having to denounce everything they know and love. Terrified, miles and miles away from their own parents. Look, I think allowing this to occur as a nation, it goes against the very fabric of who we are as a country. Think about that. And look, I join you in asking our European allies to step up and to do the very same thing that we're doing today. But we are here today because America must do something. And you cannot be a great nation if you are unwilling to do good. And there is no doubt that these kids need us. They need us to raise our voice. I want to thank the First Lady for her tireless effort on this. Senator Graham, I want to thank you, Senator Blumenthal, Senator Klobuchar. Stand with you in bringing every one of these kids home and appreciate this. And I think we have a moral obligation to keep this going until we get every last one of them back into their parents' arms.
Well, thank you. Well said by all. We got 2 votes. We'll come back we'll try to vote at the beginning of the second vote, and our second panel, we'll hear from y'all just as soon as we get through voting. Thank you. We're in recess to that. Okay.
And with that, as we are at 2:33, we'll take another break on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Time right now is 2:36. Want to bring you some breaking news right now from the Tar Heel State. We know that today, former Governor Roy Cooper has filed his paperwork to run for the U.S. Senate in North Carolina in 2026. He had a video message that will play later on WCNC Charlotte, but we knew that he made his announcement saying over the summer that he was going to run for the Senate. And so to make it official today, he did indeed file the proper paperwork to run for the U.S. Senate seat, saying in part, quote, "I've lived and served in North Carolina my entire life, and I'm proud to be on the ballot for the United States Senate." We will continue to follow that story headed to Election Day. In the meantime, back in the Live Impact studio now on WCNC Plus, happening live right now at Washington, D.C. Several local leaders talking immigration, speaking out against, quote, rhetoric, and looking for the dignity for detained immigrants. Let's listen in on Live Impact News.
Certainly not least Speaker has been working on this issue in every capacity for many, many years. We are so grateful to you, Heidi Altman from the National Immigrant Justice Center.
Thank you, Congresswoman. What a privilege to be here today to celebrate the reintroduction of this bill. And I would also like us together to reaffirm that one day it will become law. Yes. And we will be here, and we will celebrate that day, and we will be fighting together until it happens. I'm the Vice President of Policy at the National Immigration Law Center, where we advocate for justice for low-income immigrants. And for about 20 years, like Sarah, I have represented and advocated for and alongside people who have survived or are surviving the United States immigration detention system. One thing I know for sure, immigration detention is designed to break the spirit of the people inside its walls. And you heard that firsthand today. Every person inside an ICE jail or prison is separated from their families. This is an intentional form of family separation. The vast majority of them are unable to find a lawyer, and despair often forces them to give up their rights and accept deportation. Make no mistake, this is not a byproduct of the system. It is the intended consequence. This is the case today, and it was the case back in the 1980s when the immigration detention system as we know it today first began to grow, fueled then and now by the greed of private prison executives and by fear of people who our government tells us are the other, but are not. So who are the tens of thousands of people stuck in ICE prisons and jails as we stand here today? Our neighbors, our friends, our colleagues, our children's teachers. Because of their place of birth, they are enduring so many horrors, and you have heard some of them today firsthand. They are enduring medical neglect. They cannot get treatment for the cancer they were diagnosed with before they were detained. They are thrown in solitary confinement when they dare to complain about the horrible treatment they're enduring. They are fed food with worms, torn from their children and their livelihoods. They are called names and racist slurs by the officers, and if they happen to be a member of the LGBT community, they will almost certainly face harassment, assault, or worse. But we're here today because we know it can be different. We know study after study, as you've heard, shows that immigrants voluntarily appear for their immigration court cases. We can imagine a different approach, one where we support and welcome our neighbors as they navigate the U.S. immigration system, where we greet people seeking asylum with community support and nourishment instead of handcuffs. And we are so lucky that Congresswoman Jayapal has this vision, and that she and Congressman Smith have been championing this vision for years with this critical bill, and we are beyond grateful for your leadership and your perseverance. At the National Immigration Law Center, we're so proud to endorse the Dignity for Detained Immigrants Act, and proud to call very loudly today on every member of Congress to sign on today. Thank you to the members who are here today, to my fellow speakers who are here fighting for dignity. We know you won't give up.
And you've been watching live a press conference with lawmakers out of D.C. on immigration. Let's go to South Carolina right now. He just wrapped up moments ago. The governor of South Carolina, Henry McMaster, making comments talking about the implementation of having a cybersecurity team now for the state and to safeguard against cybersecurity attacks. Let's go to that on Live Impact News.
Norbert Weiner. And the word cyber comes from a Greek word, Kybernetes. I don't know how you pronounce it. But that was in 1948 that he thought that up. And later it became a prefix for anything related to computers, networks, digital stuff, and that includes just about everything on Earth. But what's interesting to me, that was in 1948 that the phrase was coined. Well, in 1950, today, if you go into a drugstore and buy a little birthday card and open it up and it sings happy birthday to you, that is more computer power in that card today than there was in the world in 1950. So look at how far we've come. If electricity goes out, we're all in trouble because everything runs on it. And that's one reason we are creating this nuclear renaissance here in South Carolina. And this is going to help. This center is tying it all together. Since I've been around, we started in 2017, as Bill Kirkland said, with an executive order, a cybersecurity executive oversight group, and that brought a bunch of people together, and they started thinking. In 2020, we had a West Point group called Jack Vortek for a tabletop exercise in Army cyber matters over at the Pastides Center. In 2021, we asked the Department of Commerce and University of South Carolina to lead the cybersecurity ecosystem study, which they did. And that's when we really found out where there were a lot of gaps in our workforce that Brian has mentioned. And we determined that it was time to put everything together, and we determined with that study, which was completed in 2024, that in order for our workforce, for the gap to be filled, to do all this that we need done in cybersecurity talent, it would require attracting nearly 6,000 additional cybersecurity professionals. And we need more, and that's where we're headed for. This Center for Cybersecurity will carry all of that forward. And as Brian said, it's going to strengthen the coordination among public, private, nonprofit, those been working independently, everybody involved, everybody interested in training young people to do all of that and lead us forward. So this is another great step for South Carolina, and we're real proud of it and want everybody to know what's going on. And if you're interested in it, there'll be plenty of opportunities to get involved. Any questions for him? Questions? Yes, sir. Did you hear the question?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so to get a little bit more detail about the plan and SCRA's role in it. Again, to separate into two roles. The strategic plan has 20 initiatives. Those are spread across 5 pillars. Those range from innovation and entrepreneurship to education and workforce development, defense partnerships, posture and readiness being the core. How well are we doing cybersecurity? I'm blanking on the 5th one at this particular moment. Industry growth. So when you look at the totality of that, SCRA's role is to make sure that we are appropriately checking all of those boxes, making sure that everything that's being done is as efficient as possible, as effective as possible, as well resourced as possible. One example, every time I speak about this, I want to talk about them. Within the state's law enforcement division, you have the South Carolina Critical Infrastructure Cybersecurity Program. We've recommended to other states their model as a best practice for how to coordinate critical infrastructure and state government prevention and response capabilities. Nothing that SCRA is going to do, or nothing that the plan calls for, is telling SCKIC how to do its job. But to the extent that they need extra help making sure that they're properly resourced, or that critical infrastructure operators and business owners know that they're a resource, we want to help amplify that. So it might be us helping them with communications, as an example. So that's how we intend to help everyone across the totality of the plan. The other role SCRA will play is within that innovation entrepreneurship lane. As Bill described SCRA's mission, you see it written here on the board, there are 2 or 3 initiatives primarily around, again, stoking technical innovation, stoking entrepreneurship, helping to fund those programs that SCRA should be the lead agent in doing, along with the list of partners I mentioned. Does that give you enough?
Yeah, so I guess we've seen throughout the last several years, school districts, state agencies become victims of cyber attacks. I guess would those entities be able to lean on this new center for, we talk about communication, for assistance aside from law enforcement?
Sure. So there are organizations who it's more within their mission space than it is SCRA's to do that. What I don't want to say is, no, we're not going to help with that. If there are gaps that SCRA can help fill, that's fantastic. What I envision happening is that we wouldn't step in to directly help those organizations, but that we would step in to better resource and help those organizations who should be doing that, make them, in some cases, I think South Carolina has more cybersecurity resources than most people realize. We'll get an outsized at doing better communications, public awareness around those resources. Part of the study, we heard from over 400 business owners, military commanders, economic developers, cyber workers, entrepreneurs, and we heard their frustrations, their challenges. One of the biggest things we found is that people just don't know where to turn. So it's not that we need to build a bunch of new centers, build new, special operations centers. We need to help people know where to turn and give them uncomplicated, easy to access guidance. That's a huge part of the solution here.
So how is this, I guess, going to change how you fund the companies that come to you for the entrepreneurial resources? Are you putting more focus on companies companies that have a cybersecurity bend, or how does that change SCRA's general mission?
Sure. A lot of that for me is yet to be determined. What I can tell you now is I think there are other people at SCRA who are better equipped to get into the details of that. What I can add to that conversation is historically, the incentive programs, the grant programs, the funding programs that I've seen in the state are appropriately maximized for the industries we've already grown here. So we talked with, in the technical college system as an example, there are workforce development programs that also help entrepreneurs. Those programs have been optimized to help advance manufacturing as an example. So we want to find out, are there tweaks we can make to those that are a little more useful for cyber entrepreneurs, because the capital that's needed to start those companies is a little bit different. So this state has proven we know how to help resource entrepreneurs to build a factory, to get machinery, to build an operations floor, because that's the type of industries we're used to supporting. With cybersecurity, you don't need that type of capital. You need to hire 100 people in a week. And it's tweaking the incentives, tweaking the ways that we select those companies, tweaking the models. The details of that yet to be worked out.
Jessica, I would say that it's another vertical or industry we're working in for, as you know, SC Launch. You know it well. My hopes is as we start to roll out the plan, we'll see more opportunities to invest, because it's going to create a pipeline of companies either here today or moving to South Carolina. And then we will then go about the proper way to fund them from the SC Launch program. And Lee McElwain, who leads that team, is here if you'd like to spend a little more time with him. Thank you, Jeff.
Any more questions? Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
And we'll be right back on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. At 2:52 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, as we come up on the 3 o'clock hour and you want to know what your weather is like, we have the daily blog from Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. We'll play that for you now here on WCNC Plus.
Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here, and yes, we are talking about the chance for snow, but no, this is not going to be a big event, not a ton of accumulation, and a lot of you are not going to see snow, but this is probably the first legitimate, I would say, widespread chance of the season. So let's get right to it. We're going to get right to the details. First things first, what has been changing over the last couple of weeks is cold air has been building over Canada. I'm going to show you the current surface temperatures. This is really cold air. This is a piece of Arctic air that's made it down into Canada. It's finally on the move. And so for the first time in a long time, we're seeing cold air make it down to the United States. At the same time, we also have snowpack. Now, this is the current snowpack departure from normal. What that is basically, is there more snow in these areas than there typically is for this time of year? And if you look carefully, everything shades of blue, that's above average snowfall. And this is where we want to see snowfall in the Carolinas, because this allows for cold air to make it further south. You notice out west, there's some below average, and even along the Canadian border, it's not great. But for us in the Carolinas, the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, and most of the Northeast has above average snowfall right now, which what that does, it allows the cold air that comes south to be colder. It moves over refrigerated ground. It also allows for cold air to build closer to us. Instead of over Canada and the Arctic, it starts to build in the continental United States. So this allows for cold air masses to be colder than they otherwise would. Now, why is that important? Well, coming up on Friday, while it's not a big storm, it will have colder air than what we had yesterday on Tuesday morning. The reason why is the cold air is going to be moving in from the Northeast. So let me advance this. This is starting this afternoon, 6 o'clock, short range guidance. We're going to go through tonight and into early tomorrow morning. So this gets us to Thursday morning. The thing you notice right off the bat, there is an area of high pressure over here. Remember how cold and snow covered the ground is here? So that's a pretty cold high pressure system. As we go through Thursday afternoon, that high pressure system begins to shift east with time. At the same time, you see our low pressure system developing along the Gulf Coast region, some moisture down there. It's kind of spread out, but there's certainly a low pressure system there. We'll go into Thursday night. And as we get into Thursday night, I'm going to stop it right here, and you'll see a high pressure system developing over the eastern Great Lakes, Ohio, Pennsylvania. That's over above average snowfall and really cold air. So what that does, that high pressure wedges itself down the eastern facing slopes and provides low level cold air. That's cold air down at the ground, not so much above our heads, but it is a deeper area of cold air than we've had recently. So as we go into Thursday night, moisture moves into this air mass. You can see the wedge clear. I mean, this is a perfect wedge setup. The high pressure is basically over Baltimore and New York, and it's pumping in cool, dry air. But up above our heads, 5,000 feet plus, we've got warm, humid air coming in from the south that's trying to override it. So the colder that and drier, honestly, that surface layer is, the better the chance that some of this starts to mix in with snow. Now, I know the map is showing green, but this first batch is going to be virga or snow, or what we call snurga, evaporating before it reaches the ground. But it's going to moisten up the atmosphere as well as cool the atmosphere down. As we go into the early morning hours, this is Friday morning, by the way, 12:45 in the morning, so after midnight, we get into about 3 o'clock in the morning. You can see a pretty good batch of snow developing along Interstate 40. Now, could we see snow mixing around Charlotte? Absolutely, that is a possibility, but you're starting to see this area in particular is probably more favored because the air is colder and temperatures are going to be more favorable. Even in Charlotte, if we see snow, it's not going to stick because air temperatures probably stay above freezing. It's really about how cold it is above our head. You can see as I zoom in, I'll tilt this. This is 4 o'clock Friday morning. We'll go through time, and you can see kind of the rain snow line, Interstate 40 to 85, that typical area. So the area with greatest chance of snow in this setup is going to be these areas right in here, okay? If you're in Charlotte South, sorry, I don't think this is really going to be an event. Could we see flakes? Yes, but there'll be novelty, probably not going to accumulate. And even up here, you're not looking at huge accumulations because even here, it looks like it changes over to rain and mixes enough as we get past sunrise on Friday that it becomes a non-issue. So let's talk about the area I'm talking about closer and possible impacts. So if you guys have followed me long enough, you know I love this product. It's the Winter Storm Impact Graphic. It shows basically minor, limited impacts in gray, and then goes up in scale, minor, moderate, major. Just think of this low, medium, high, and extreme. And the gray is just areas where there could be wintry weather. And if you look closely, you can see some of the mountains, eastern facing slopes, because there could be a combination of ice and snow there. But most of the areas in gray, you're talking about maybe just a slick bridge here or there. You see a couple of yellow spots here and there going up towards the Triad. That's mainly because it might affect the interstates there. And then we go off to the east, you can see maybe a few spots over towards Durham. But this gives you a really good feel for where we could see the wintry weather. A graphic I shared earlier today, which I love as well, is the probability of seeing 1 inch of snow, not 1 inch, excuse me, a trace of snow or measurable. So you see this. I will show you the 1 inch, by the way, in a minute. But let me widen this out. So this is the probability of seeing measurable snow. For those that don't know, we only measure snow to the nearest 1/10 of an inch. Very small total. We don't go below that. If it is, it's a trace. So just to give you a close-in view of this, probability of seeing measurable snow around Rock Hill, Fort Mill, TKK, Monroe, Waxhaw, Weddington, Charlotte, between 10 and 20%. Not really huge. You get up towards the lake, it jumps to about 30%, but Interstate 40 is where you jump above the 50% range. And as you go further north, you see the range goes up to 70, 80%. Now, that's just measurable. That's probably not going to, no one's going to notice that. It's not going to be a big impact. 1 inch of snow, kind of the threshold I use around here for possibly getting some significant impact. So let's take a look at that. We'll refresh this and we'll show you the chance of seeing 1 inch of snow. So let me pop this back up. That was actually a little bit different tool. So you look at the possibility of 1 inch of snow, it starts getting whittled back quite a bit. And you're really looking at the mountains and the Yadkin Valley area north of Interstate 40. So right in here, this is where we highlight the possibility of seeing at least 1 inch of snow. And up there, the chances, again, vary a little bit across the area. If I go to Statesville, you can see the probability of 1 inch is only 17%. That's not super high, right? And for Charlotte, by the way, just to look at this, chance of measurable snow is 28. The chance of 1 inch is 0. So that's why I say Charlotte, probably not. But you get up towards Lenore, the chance of 1 inch of snow jumps to 23%, and even 2 inches is at least 11%. So that's kind of what we're expecting in this area. So let's look at the blend of models for this. And this is what the blend of models, not just one model, all the models blended together shows for accumulation. I will put out my map later today or tonight, but you can see Interstate 40 trace amounts to maybe a dusting. That's all less than 1/2 inch. If you want to see 1 inch, you probably got to get to this gray area, which is up in here. That gives you a pretty good perspective on where we're likely going to see accumulating snow, if at all. Now, is this a huge event? Absolutely not. Probably, not going to have major impacts on the road because a lot of this happens during the day Friday. Even though it might be snowing, the temperature's above freezing, it's daylight, melting on contact, white rain. But of course, we'll talk more about this. I will post more updates, and I will have my first snowfall map sometime this evening, maybe as soon as 6 o'clock, and maybe definitely for 6:30 on my streaming show on WCNC+. So that's the latest. Stay tuned. Friday could be our first little taste of winter weather without a freak out. No need to buy anything. No need to change plans. Just the typical December winter event in the Carolinas. Remember, it's supposed to snow here.
All right, and folks, Vanessa Rufus taking over here in the Live Impact News studio. We're going to pivot quickly over to a brand new feed that just started a few moments ago. We have House Minority and Senate Minority leaders Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer speaking. We know that the Democrats have been pushing lately to try to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and they're trying to get a bipartisan deal underway. Let's listen in as they're making this address.
The brink of experiencing dramatically increased health insurance premiums. So much so that many will be unable to go see a doctor when they need one. And so we stand together, continuing the fight to address the Republican healthcare crisis and fix our broken healthcare system. And what's immediately in front of us right now is the need to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. We just need a handful of Republicans in the House to join us, and we can force an up or down vote on the floor to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits and stand up for working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans who are at risk of having their health care ripped away from them. Leader Schumer.
Thank you. And yes, as Hakeem said, we had a great discussion on our Democratic agenda, focusing on the #1 issue facing the American people, the high costs of the things they care most about and need the most, especially health care. Health care costs, we know, are going through the roof. It's just astounding that people would pay $500 or $1,000 more a month for their health care. What are they going to do? Come January 1st, millions won't have doctors. Tens of millions will lose their doctors and have to go to a new one who might not be nearby, who might not understand the ailment their child has. It's just incredible. And why is this happening? Republican intransigence. Democrats are united on fighting to lower health care costs. Republicans are a mess. They can't come to an agreement on a bill. They can't come to an agreement on a solution. Many of them don't want any solution at all. Well, next week, Republican senators will have an opportunity to show the American people they want to lower their health care costs, or they will spurn the American people's desire to lower those health care costs by not supporting Democratic legislation. They are in a bubble. From Donald Trump on down, Donald Trump says there's no affordability crisis. What kind of world is he living in? He's a billionaire. He doesn't have to worry about paying his medical bills, his heating bills, his food bills. But as president, you'd think he'd have some understanding of how the vast majority of Americans live every week, struggling. How are they going to pay this bill? How are they going to pay that bill? What am I going to cut off? But they're in this bubble. They don't get it. Well, Democrats know our job is to fight for the American people and to lower their costs. Republicans have no unity. So Democrats are fighting to lower health care costs. Republicans are fighting with one another.
Questions?
Mr. Leader, thank you. Actually, this is directed to you, Leader Schumer. Do you plan to introduce a proposal for a clean 3-year extension similar to the discharge petition that the leader put forth ahead of next week's vote? And second...
Well, let me answer the first one in 2 words. Stay tuned. Second question.
Okay, but you're united, right? So
we are united. We are united.
Okay. Second question.
We are not united within the entire Senate caucus.
Okay. Second question. I'm just curious if either of you have seen this new DoD IG report. I know it hasn't been made public yet, but there are some details that have come out suggesting that the Secretary may have jeopardized sensitive military information in that Signal group chat. Just want your reaction.
I haven't seen it yet. It's only available to right now, a classified version to the members of the Intelligence Committee, but I await its release publicly tomorrow.
Yeah, I have not seen the report. Pete Hegseth is the most unqualified Secretary of Defense in American history. The sooner he's gone, the better off the American people.
Peter Jeffries, do you support President Trump's pardoning of Henry Cuellar, and have you spoken to him to Cuellar today, and do you believe that he will stay loyal to the caucus?
I issued a statement on this earlier. My statement speaks for itself. I look forward to talking to Henry when we go on the floor in just about an hour.
Here we go.
If Democrats are united on this health care issue, why are you not stating your plan at this point? Are you hoping for a bipartisan agreement to come together, or what is the reason to not?
Look, the Republican senators have an opportunity to show they're on the side of the American people, and next Tuesday's or next week's vote, we don't know what day yet, next week's vote will show whose side they're on. Are they on the side of the billionaires? Are they on the side of Donald Trump, who says he doesn't even know what affordability means, and is it a crisis, or on the side of the American people? We'll see.
When are you going to tell us what you are voting on?
Stay tuned.
Yeah, this is not that complicated. What we've seen, right, House Democrats and Senate Democrats in complete alignment in defending the health care of the American people from the very beginning. Every single House Democrat, every single Senate Democrat opposing the one big ugly bill. Why? Because it enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. It literally ripped insurance away from about 14 million people all across the country, including in rural America. At the same time, Democrats standing united against the one big ugly bill. Why? Because it set in motion hospitals, nursing homes, community-based health centers closing all across the country. We oppose the cuts to the Centers for Disease Control. Together, we oppose the cuts to the National Institute of Health. We oppose their effort to take away vaccines from the children of America, and now you see people getting sick all across this country, including in South Carolina, where kids actually couldn't even go to school, apparently, for weeks because of the Republican health care crisis. And we're standing together in fighting to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits.
Thank you. Leadership respect that Republicans will have a chance to support some piece of legislation next week. But Speaker Johnson reportedly told President Trump to pull back his plan that he reportedly planned to put forward. So even if something happens in the Senate next week, how are you thinking about what's happening over on your side of the Capitol in terms of, Speaker Johnson not supporting any type of conversation around extending these tax credits at this point?
Well, Mike Johnson has consistently made his position clear. He's got zero interest in protecting the health care of the American people. And these folks over on the House side, these Republicans, they've tried to repeal the Affordable Care Act more than 70 different times. We know who they are. They've shown the American people this consistently. And the American people know that Democrats in the House and Senate are actually fighting to make their life better, fighting to lower the high cost of living, fighting to address the Republican health care crisis and fix our broken health care system. In terms of movement in the House, all 214 House Democrats have signed the discharge petition that will force an up or down vote. All we need are 4 House Republicans to join us. There are 219 of them. All we need are 4. Dozens have said that they were prepared to work with Democrats to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits in the aftermath of the Trump Republican shutdown ending. The Trump Republican shutdown's over. And now we've got a vehicle here in the House. All we need are 4 Republicans to join us, and we can prevent tens of millions of people from having dramatically increased health insurance costs. In some cases, $1,000 or $2,000 per month in terms of the increases that everyday Americans will be forced to endure. That's unacceptable, particularly in the wealthiest country in the history of the world.
I would say this, the petition, the discharge petition in the House and the vote next week in the Senate are going to be one of the most important moments in this whole Congress. Since 1993, there's been a...
All right, folks, time to take a quick break here on Live Impact. We do have several feeds going right now as we speak. Of course, we'll monitor the Schumer and Jeffries announcement regarding Affordable Care Act tax credits. We also have this hearing that is underway where congressional leaders are hearing testimony and stories from folks who say that they have knowledge of kidnappings that have taken place in Ukraine by Russian authorities. So we're going to come back in 2 minutes, likely to join with either of those 2 feeds. We'll see you in 2. All right, folks, thanks so much for sticking with us here on Live Impact News. We indeed will join with the Ukraine testimony we're seeing happening at this very moment. So lawmakers with the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee in Washington, D.C. are hearing stories by the Ukraine ambassador to the United States, U.S. human rights activists, and they're all talking about the abduction of Ukrainian children by Russia. Let's listen in. We're jumping right in the middle of a story, so you're going to see some slides. So just so you know, you're looking at testimony from a child.
Thank you very much for the video. Madam Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Dear Chairman, dear Ranking Member Schatz, dear Leader, dear committee members, Excellencies, dear friends, it is my honor on behalf of Ukraine to thank the United States Senate and the Committee on Appropriations for organizing this hearing. It is also a distinguished honor to present my witness testimony today, not only as the ambassador of Ukraine and a representative of my country, but also as a Ukrainian, as a Christian, and as a mother of 2 children. The destiny of Ukrainian boys and girls abducted by Russia, unfortunately, is not an abstract issue. It is a deliberate action conducted as a regular Russian tactics of war. It is Ukraine's and wider common knowledge that since the beginning of the Russian full-scale aggression, thousands of Ukrainian children have been abducted and forcibly trafficked from their homes, separated from their families, or removed from the orphanages and foster care institutions in the temporarily occupied territories, and also transferred to Russia or Belarus. These children were subjected not only to a forcible transfer, but to a change of their names, their language, their identity, and even their citizenship. These elements alone have no other name but an instrument of war. Humanitarian evacuation, not even close. As a scale which is under aggression, Ukrainian nation has not only been documenting and speaking and being vocal about these crimes. Together with international partners and our allies and volunteers, we mobilize efforts to take every step we can to bring every innocent soul back to their families, back to their lands. But only with all of these efforts, it was only a small fraction of these children who were able to come back home. Each child's return is a miracle of diplomacy, coordination, and extraordinary courage from their parents who traveled through multiple countries, through the war zones, but just to reclaim their sons and daughters back. But for every child who makes it home, many more remain missing, hidden and trapped in systems that are designed to keep them away from Ukraine and from the truth of what happened to them. As a mother, I cannot accept that any government would treat children as a trophies of war or bargaining chip in a geopolitical negotiations. Children are not assets to be moved on geopolitical chessboard. They're human beings with names, souls, families, memories, and rights. Their right to family life, identity, culture, their own language and country is protected not only by Ukraine, but by every international convention that the whole democratic world has ever managed to accomplish. Russia launched the war of its aggression not only 4 years ago, but 11 years ago. It occupied part of our territories and decided it could claim our children as its own. As early as 2015, Russia was already taking Ukrainian children from occupied Crimea by train to Moscow. This was called a rescue or evacuation operation. These children were taught that they are not Ukrainians. They don't belong to anything they related them in their previous lives. Based on the massive amount of evidence and the cases presented to the court, on the July 9, 2025, the European Court of Human Rights confirmed that between 2014 and 2022, Russia abducted Ukrainian children and transferred them into unrelated Russian families. The court also established that indoctrination of children is a state policy of Russian Federation aimed at destroying Ukrainian identity. As an ambassador, I may say it straightforwardly. The forced transfer and deportation, including abduction of our children from occupied territories, is a grave breach of international law and can constitute a war crime. Bringing Ukrainian children back shall not be subjected to discussion. It is a central element of any discussion about peace and future relations of Russia, be it US or any country around the globe. As of November 2025, until now, Justice Ministry has officially confirmed 9,221 records, which is officially verified data of kids who are still abducted and being placed at the territory of Russian Federation. Cases of deportation and forced transfer of Ukrainian children are now around 20,000 records only calculated by Ukraine. But even according to official data presented by Russian Federation, the numbers are way higher. We still do not know a full picture of the occupied territories, but we also know that the physical abduction is no longer the only tool of the Russian aggression. Russia is reprogramming our children in place, in occupied schools, children's camps, social institutions, and even families under occupation. About 1,600,000 Ukrainian children are currently under Russian control in the occupied territories. Russia does not give them a chance. There's no escape route. The kids are forced to obey the ideology. So at this point, we know that there are at least 210 sites which are known as the indoctrination places across the occupied territories. We mobilized the efforts under the leadership of President Zelensky, who united international players and domestic players on the umbrella of the initiative Bring Kids Back, which we're doing everything to locate our children back. We created national programs dedicated to this issue, and we are cooperating with international partners. But we cannot succeed alone. These children are scattered across the vast territory. We need to make our voices heard, and we are grateful to helping us. Based on the information provided above, it is our duty to reach out to respectful members of Senate with the next elements. It is our position that we require the unconditional return of all the children within the peace process. We also ask you to keep this issue on top of the international agenda to the extent it is possible. And we also think that the information you heard from the respective colleagues of yours, but also you will hear from the testimonies provided by Ukrainian side, leaves no doubt that Russia is a sponsor of terrorism, a sponsor of evil, and a sponsor of sin. Passing the respective legislative initiative by Senate will leave no room for Russia to bypass the obligation for the unconditional return of all Ukrainian children. Thank you for this attention.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from the head of Bring Kids Back. You can state your name for the record, please.
It's Maxim Maximov.
Thank you.
Honorable Chairman, Ranking Member, Senators, thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. When speaking about the abduction and identity erasure of Ukrainian children, I feel deep responsibility because nothing in the Russia's war reveals its intent more clearly than what it does to Ukrainian children. I appear on behalf of the Bring Kids Back UA initiative launched by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. It unites the efforts of the government agencies, civil society organizations, and international partners to trace, return, and reintegrate Ukrainian children stolen by Russia. As a coordinating platform, we have a comprehensive understanding of what Ukrainian children endure under Russian control, both in territories it occupies and in Russia itself. The actions of the Russian Federation toward Ukrainian children are not isolated incidents or humanitarian decisions gone wrong. They are part of a deliberate strategy, a state policy of demographic engineering and identity erasure. Child abductions and industrial-scale re-education are weaponized to reshape entire communities and redirect children's loyalty, pushing a generation away from home. And critically, today, many children do not need to be taken across border to have their identities erased. In occupied towns and villages, Ukrainian language, history, and culture are...
And folks, let's take a quick break here. 2 minutes, we'll be back with either more of this feed. We also are watching other feeds percolating around the nation and some that are expected later this hour. So stick with us here on Live Impact. We'll see you in a couple minutes. And welcome back here to Live Impact News. I'm Vanessa Rufus. We will turn back here to this hearing that we're seeing underway with the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee in Washington, D.C., hearing testimony from various folks, including Ukraine's ambassador to the U.S., human rights activists, and we're even hearing videos from children themselves talking about abduction of Ukrainian children by Russia. Let's listen in.
And third, continued U.S. support for Ukraine's efforts under the Bring-Us-Back-UA framework. Tracing, returns, reintegration, and accountability. These are the steps that would dismantle the system Russia built and bring our children back home as themselves. There can be no durable peace while Ukrainian children remain missing, reprogrammed, or trapped inside Russia's administrative system. Senators, through coordinated efforts under the Bring-Us-Back-UA initiative, 1,859 children have been returned back to Ukraine. Your leadership and your pressure directly determines how many more will come home. Thank you for your support, and thank you for standing with us in this fight. Thank you.
Senator Murray, would you like to say anything? Or?
I'll wait till my turn.
Okay. Gentleman from Save Ukraine.
Mikola Kuleba. Chairman Graham, Ranking Member Schatz, and esteemed committee members, thank you for the opportunity to come before you, not only the founder of Save Ukraine, but the father and the witness of the grievous crime of our century, the systematic abduction, trafficking, and militarization of Ukraine's children by the Russian Federation. Through our Save Ukraine Underground Railroad, built with coordination of Bring Us Back initiative, President Zelensky, we rescued more than 1,000 children from Russia and occupied territories. And let me speak on their behalf. I give testimony in this historic moment of urgency not experienced in generations, but with the same goal as Stalin's Holodomor to erase Ukraine. Not just by bombs, but by stealing our innocent children. Our children continue to suffer a biblical plague conducted by a modern pharaoh. I plead with you from the bottom of my heart.
Folks, we're going to pivot away because we now have the President of the United States speaking right now, making an announcement. We're told he's going to be updating Biden-era fuel standards, and you can see behind him he's got Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. It looks like we're also seeing Senator Ted Cruz. Let's listen in right now.
With the insane electric vehicle mandate, Biden's burdensome regulations help cause the price of cars to soar more than 25%. And in one case, they went up 18% in 1 year. Today, we're taking one more step to kill the Green New scam. It's part of the greatest scam, probably, well, other than Russia, and a few others I could name. The greatest scam in American history, the Green New scam. And it's a quest to end the gasoline-powered car. This is what they wanted to do, even though we have more gasoline than any other country by far. And people want the gasoline car. They want everything. They want electric. They want to have lots of alternatives, but they do want the gasoline car. Right now, it's leading away by a lot. The car business is a very interesting business, but we want to keep it that way. I want to thank Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, Deputy Transportation Secretary Stephen Bradbury, as well as CEO of Ford, Jim Farley. Jim, where is Jim? Let's see. Hi, Jim. Congratulations. You're doing a great job. CEO of Stellantis, Antonio Filosa. Thank you very much, Antonio. Chairman of the National Automobile Dealers Association, Tom Castrida.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Tom.
President.
Great to have you. And Manager of General Motors Orient Plant, John Urbanek.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Great to have you guys here. And you're going to say a few words in a minute about how ridiculous this was, but we've just freed you up. So you're going to have a good day and have a good number of years. Thanks as well to Senators Shelley Moore Capito, Ted Cruz, Kevin Cramer, Marcia Blackburn, Eric Schmidt, and Bernie Marino, as well as Representatives Sam Graves, Vern Buchanan, Mike Kelly, Roger Williams, Lisa McClain, and Troy Balderson. All great people. These are great people. And I know there's a lot of support long beyond the people that are here. We had tremendous support on this. From day one, I've been taking action to make buying a car more affordable. I signed an executive order to end the unfair, expensive electric vehicle mandate. As you know, we had to have an electric car within a very short period of time, even though there was no way of charging them and lots of other things. It would have cost $5 trillion to build the charging plants. And as you know, in certain parts of the Midwest, they spent, to build 9 chargers, they spent $8 billion. So that wasn't working out too well. That was done before me, by the way. I wouldn't have let it go forward. We're canceling the EPA's absurd tailpipe emission standards, one of the most important things that I've never had a group of people come to me more powerfully and really just devastated that they had to do it. It was killing them than the automobile manufacturers, the tailpipe emission standards. And I can tell you, your people at Ford were coming to me all the time, and they were saying, like, please, it doesn't do anything, and it's killing us. And it's driving the cost through the roof. And we revoked Biden's emissions waiver for California so that California communists could not regulate the automobile industry and ruin the entire nation of automobiles. And they were doing that too. But we have that now under control also with your governor, who's got much more than he can control. Now, under the new rules being issued today by Secretary Duffy, the Department of Transportation will rescind the Biden fuel economy prices. And I hate to say that because they were really not economy. They were really, they were anti-economy. They were horrible what they were doing to the costs and actually making the car much worse. But these policies forced automakers to build cars using expensive technologies that drove up costs, drove up prices, and made the car much worse. The action is expected to save the typical consumer at least $1,000 off the price of a new car, and we think substantially more than that. Under the Trump administration, $70 billion are now being invested in the American auto industry. Ford has announced it will invest $5 billion across its Kentucky and Michigan plants. Is that a correct statement?
That's right.
That's a lot, $5 billion. You could do more. creating at least 4,000 new jobs. Stellantis announced that it will invest $13 billion to expand its U.S.-based manufacturing by more than 50% and open new manufacturing facilities across the country. And I think a big part of that is also the tariffs. Because of tariffs, they're coming in, not only the automobile industry, AI, we're leading China in AI, we're leading everybody in AI, we're leading everybody and everything. We have the hottest country right now. I will tell you, a lot of political people behind me, great political people, very successful political people. We have the hottest country anywhere in the world. 1 year ago, we had a dead country, and now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. And it started from November 5th, but it also started when we did the tariffs, and we've had tremendous support on the tariffs. It's bringing in trillions of dollars of wealth. It's bringing in national security. And I've stopped 8 wars, and of the 8 wars, 5 of them have been because of tariffs and trade. So they're very important. And General Motors plans to invest $4 billion as it brings its manufacturing back to the United States from Mexico. After falling by 5% under Biden, U.S. auto production has surged by 10% so far this year. You know, I won the auto workers vote, but now even the head of the auto workers said Trump is the greatest president we've ever seen. And he happens to be right about that. But we're protecting our auto workers, and we're making it easier for every family to afford high-quality cars. In other words, we're bringing automobiles back and the manufacturing of automobiles back into this country. We lost 52% over the years, 52% of our automobile manufacturing. You see it, closed factories all over the place. Now they're all opening up. They're being, in most cases, they're being knocked down, and new ones are being built in their place. And a big beneficiary is the state of Michigan, but South Carolina, even states that didn't really do too much with the automobiles, they're opening up plants. It's been amazing. So between automobile plants, AI plants, and plants of every other nation, really every other type, including chips, we're going to have a big percentage of the chip market very soon. Not because of the CHIPS Act, which was horrible and ridiculous, where we just gave these companies billions and billions of dollars and they just kept the money, but because of what we did with tariffs. They have to build here, otherwise they're going to have to pay tariffs. They won't be able to do business in the United States. And we're going to have a big percentage of the chip industry. As of about a year ago, 2 years ago, we had none. And now we're going to have a very big percentage when it all finishes out. So I'd like to ask Secretary Duffy to speak, and then Mr. Farley, and then Filosa, and Urbanik, and Castrita. And also we're going to ask some of our political leaders to speak, because let me tell you, they went out of their way. This was not easy. And people were brainwashed. This is a green new scam. And people were paying too much for a car that didn't work as well. And now they're going to have a great car that's going to be environmentally friendly, but it's going to cost you a lot less, and it's going to work great. All of the nonsense is being taken out of the cars. So, Secretary Duffy, could you say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. President. So yesterday at the cabinet meeting, the president was talking about affordability, and the way that Democrats talk about affordability is a lie. Today is a perfect example of that. So these CAFE standards used what was contrary to the law. The Congress set a rule that says you have to look at combustion engines. Biden and Buttigieg actually did an analysis using Buttigieg used EVs and hybrids to come up with a 62 mile an hour per gallon standard, which I think the car companies will tell you is completely unattainable. So they spent a lot of money on technology trying to meet the unattainable standard, driving up the cost of a car, number one. And then number two, if they couldn't meet the unattainable standard, they had to trade for carbon, costing billions of dollars, and again, driving up the price of the car. So, Mr. President, what Democrats were doing were not making cars more affordable, they're making them less affordable. The consequence of that is going to be that more Americans can afford to buy a new car, which means they're going to be safer on the roads because of all the great new technology we have that save lives. So we'll have less death on American roads. These rules are going to allow the automakers to make vehicles that Americans want to purchase, not vehicles that Joe Biden and Buttigieg wants them to build, which is important. But also, this is important for American jobs. The more cars we sell, the more jobs we have in this country. And so this is jobs, this is freedom. And this is common sense, Mr. President, so thank you for your leadership. And I appreciate what the Senate did with the big, beautiful bill and what we've done here today, so thank you.
Thank you very much. A big, beautiful bill is, it's something. It's amazing. Wait till people see the benefits and the lower taxes that they're going to have, lower regulations. So, how about Ford?
Mr. President and Secretary, all the important lawmakers here, competitors, today is a victory of common sense and affordability. We're very proud of Ford to be the #1 auto producer in our country. 80% of the vehicles we sell here we make in our country.
Right.
And we never left, unlike many of our competitors. We're the #1 exporter, and we have the most auto factory workers. And this CAFE standard that is aligned with customer demand is the right move. For a lot of reasons. We were #2 last year in EV sales, we were #3 in hybrid, and we're the leading brand for combustion. We believe that people should be able to make a choice, as you said, Mr. President, and we will invest more in affordable vehicles. This allows us to invest in affordable vehicles made in the U.S., which we will take the lead on, and will allow us to make vehicles more affordable. So thank you for making this step for all of you.
Thank you very much. One of the other things we're doing, it's separate from this meeting, but I think everybody here would agree with it. If you go to Japan, where I just left, and if you go to South Korea and Malaysia and other countries, they have a very small car, sort of like the Beetle used to be with the Volkswagen. They're very small, they're really cute, and I said, how would that do in this country? And everyone seems to think good, but you're not allowed to build them. And I've authorized the Secretary to immediately approve the production of those cars. So you'll be able to buy, they really are, they're actually, some of them are really beautiful, actually. If you take a look, Honda, some of the Japanese companies do a beautiful job. But we're not allowed to make them in this country, and I think you're going to do very well with those cars. So we're going to approve those cars. Would you like to say something about that?
Well, no, just that he never stops working, so even when he's on Asian time, he's calling me at midnight in the States. But he gave me the directive to clear the regulations on this, which we have. And so if Toyota or any other company wants to make smaller, more affordable cars, fuel efficient, we have cleared the deck so they can make them in America and sell them in America.
They're really nice and less expensive, and it really gives people a chance to have a car, you know, have a brand new car as opposed to a car that maybe isn't so great. And so you car companies start thinking about that. I think it's going to be a tremendous market. Please, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great day for us at Stellantis today, because it's the day where we see CAFE regulation reconciled with real customers' demand. That's why at Stellantis we decided to invest to Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and Chrysler $13 billion in the next 4 years, increasing production by 50%, delivering to the market 5 new vehicles, and creating 5,000 additional jobs. That's because we believe in what you, Secretary Duffy, and all your team is doing in this country. We believe in growth, and we are ready to invest even more. So thank you very much. Thank you very much also for this great news of the K cars, which we are very interested in. And we are very looking forward to work with Secretary Duffy, your team, in the future for the next steps. Thank you very much.
Well, get ready for those cars, because we've already cleared the way. You can start right away.
We will. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Please.
Mr. President, thank you so much for having me. We support your leadership for this issue that is so important to the auto industry. I'm here representing the hard-working men and women of Orion Assembly in Michigan. The facility, our manufacturing facility there, is currently going through a retool so that we can build additional U.S. manufactured pickup trucks and full-size sport utilities for our customers, and we're so excited about that. And thank you for your support. Secretary Duffy, thank you as well.
And this is largely coming in because of the tariff situation. We have
All right, folks, once again, you're hearing President Trump alongside various supporters of this change to federal fuel standards. These standards put into place under the Biden administration. Essentially, we're seeing here this proposal of weakening mileage restrictions and loosening pollution regulations for gas-powered vehicles. And there was a rule that required cars to become 2% more efficient each year. We're seeing some changes on this front. So we'll keep you updated as we learn more on that front. We will take a quick break, though, back in 2 minutes with one of our feeds here on Live Impact News. We appreciate you sticking with us. All right, folks, we're back here in the Live Impact News studio. We will pivot back to the announcement from President Trump. He is still speaking at this moment after announcing some changes to federal fuel standards, which were set under the Biden administration, weakening some of these restrictions that the former president put into place. And you hear the president with some supporters of these changes kind of interacting at this point.
Will choose what they want to buy. Right. They don't want to be taken out of a market by people who, quite frankly, don't even drive their own car, and saying this is the way you've got to go going into the future. And say, well, you may say that, but you're not in the market. You have no idea. And I know the business we're in. At the end of the day, if you were there with me, I'd say, oh, so Mr. President, other than price, what's keeping you from taking the car home today? It's always price. Yeah. And the fact that we can build a car that's affordable, that people want to buy, that's the key to it. What you've done is unlock the most ridiculous statute that ever came in with CAFE. It wasn't done by the Congress. It wasn't done. It was done by President Obama after the courts failed on it. So thank you for doing what you're doing. You're making America great again in every single way. Thank you.
Thank you. It's going to be so big for the auto manufacturers. People aren't even going to believe the impact this has. You know, Mike used to come to my rallies all the time, and we'd have a rally, and it was like 0 degrees. It was freezing everywhere, and he'd sit there without a shirt on. And I didn't need that, you know. I didn't say it was pretty, but he would sit there in the cold, and he didn't mind it at all. I said, that's one tough cookie, right?
You lit it up. We didn't need any heat. You were there.
We had a good time. We had a lot of great rallies.
We
right?
did. We did.
Pennsylvania. Please, Mr. Congressman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I represent the dealer body. I'm a dealer, and we got some other dealers in here, but this is huge for the dealer body, the local car dealer. We're going to be able to sell what the customer wants. The manufacturer's going to make what the customer wants. We've got all kinds of options to the big bill. It's going to enable people, as we talked about, to deduct payments and so forth. As we say in the business, they've never been cheaper than they are today, Mr. President. And it's going to be a great opportunity for the dealer body to sell what consumers want. And 99% of the businesses in America are small businesses. Many are car dealers. employ a lot of people. It's going to be a great year for us. We appreciate your leadership, and we appreciate, man, from a retail standpoint, we appreciate the manufacturers going to step up and build cars that customers want and that we want to sell. So thank you very much. It makes it a great country.
He's also a very brave congressman because he was there on the baseball field that horrible day with Steve Scalise and some other people. He was hit, but he took it very well. You took it very well. You're my pal.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great job.
Appreciate you.
Great job. Appreciate it. Kevin, could you say a few words of wisdom? One of the really smart economic forecasters, I will tell you, beyond an economist. He's a real forecaster. Please.
Sir, I think that there's a massive macroeconomic benefit to what we're doing today. And the way to think about it is that the car that has the best gas mileage that you could buy that has only gasoline is a Honda that gets about 36 miles per gallon. Joe Biden wanted to make every car on average be above 50. So there's no car made in the U.S. that you would be able to sell 2 years from now, 3 years from now, under that rule, because what he wanted to do was make everybody have an electric car, as you know. But here's the thing, that if everybody had an electric car, then nobody would be buying gasoline anymore, and they'd have to take all the miles that they travel and put it on the grid. And so we would have to increase the production of electricity in the U.S. by 25% over the next couple of years if they had their way. And so you've really stopped a massive disruption for the economy with this. And so thank you, sir.
And that wasn't the main reason, and yet it certainly is a main reason. You wouldn't have been able to do it even if you wanted it. It's just so crazy. That was the mandate, which we ended. Troy, would you like to say something?
Great honor, thank you. My family is a former dealer, 48 years, Chrysler Dodge dealer. And then I got into the political world, sir. I had more fun in the dealership world, but I miss it. But I still play a big role in automobiles and grateful. I remember under President Obama when the CAFE standards changed, as Mike brought up, and going through those challenging times as a Chrysler dealer before Stellantis came along. It was Daimler before you guys got it. So thank you very much for being here and making these changes. And as you said, that interest on the car loan piece was big, and I know that Bernie led the charge on that in the Senate and get it into one big beautiful bill. That really is a big deal, and people need to understand how big a deal that is.
They did a great job. And by the way, we had a great victory last night.
Kind of like our race, huh?
He's going to be a great congressman. I think so. Really, like us, right?
Yeah, he's like us.
One of my early endorsements, right?
Yes, sir.
Can we talk about it? You're right here is the man. Come in. Let me say hello to you. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. But the thing I've admired most, you've been in business, you've been in the battles over the years, and you're helping us lead us out. Most people that are up here have no idea about business or small business. It makes a big difference. One is. Number two is, I would just say in terms of the tax stuff we're talking about, one of the things that get missed, and I'm in Florida, Sarasota region, is the ability to deduct. Most people have a small business, they'll have a lawn business, they'll have this, that, they buy a new or used truck. They can take that deduction, let's say they're in a 20% tax bracket, but the vehicle's 60 grand, they can take 20% of the 60 grand, get a $12,000 write-off. They can pay their payments for the first year. That's a powerful tool we don't talk about, I don't know why, but at the end of the day, because of what you've put in place, full expensing, that's the tool that it would use. And you could just think about all the people in Florida, just general places, they're buying old vans or new vans, they're buying trucks, mainly trucks, and they're getting a deduction. They don't even have a payment for a year.
That's right.
So one of the best things for
one
Florida.
of the biggest things in the expensing.
Expensing is a powerful tool. They can write the whole asset off the first year, take that deduction, put $12,000 in their pocket on a $20,000. Well, let me mention one other thing. They got into the e-vehicles, electric cars, and I'm talking to dealers that come in and talk to me, and basically they couldn't sell one, they couldn't give one away, and when these companies, or they got in because of whatever political pressure under Biden administration, and they end up realizing that they got no market. A guy says, the car's been sitting there a year, I can't get rid of it. So they don't understand the market. The people produce the vehicles, and that's made a big difference in your leadership. But thanks for what you're doing here today. It's big, it's huge, it'll make a big difference. $12,000 on a $60,000 vehicle, up front, day one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great job.
Yeah.
You know,
All right, and folks, we're going to take another break here on Live Impact News. 2 minutes. We'll be back. Of course, you were hearing their president alongside Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. You've got Senator Ted Cruz, even CEOs of Stellantis and Ford, as there's been this announcement of the rollback of some federal fuel standards that were put into place under the Biden administration. Yeah, we'll see you in 2 minutes, and we will either rejoin this feed or we'll see what's big and breaking when we return. And we're back here to Live Impact News. We do still have this feed happening here with the president. It looks like they are still making some remarks on the rollback of some of these fuel standards, and we'll listen in right now.
And removing these standards and making cars more affordable does mean that more people will purchase them, but it also means we're going to have to make more cars to meet that demand, and for Tennessee, that is a great thing.
So, you know, I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, like, we have the biggest auto manufacturers in the world. They're talking about investing billions and they're investing it as we speak, but billions and billions of dollars in our country. Thank you very much. And they're not like, well, maybe we'll do it. They're doing it because of tariffs. And they're doing it because of maybe they like the president, and we're doing things like this for them, which frankly, no matter who you are, this should be done. And we're doing things like deductibility of interest. When you borrow money to buy a car, you're allowed to deduct it from your income tax. That is a massive tax cut for people that probably are going to be trying to buy that car anyway. And I really think that interest factor is going to be one of the biggest things. I was proud of that because I thought of it, and it seems so simple. Other people are allowed big interest. If you're a rich person, you're allowed to have big interest deductions for different things you do. But if you're a middle-income person that has to buy a car, you were never entitled to anything. And now you're getting a full interest deduction on the loan. And I think that's going to have one of the biggest impacts. But we're here with companies that are investing tens of billions of dollars in our country as we speak. It's not going to be in 2 years or 3 years. A lot of it's because of the expensing provision in the bill, the big, beautiful bill. But a miracle is happening in our country. It's a miracle. This is just the auto industry, but we have other industries where it's the same thing. They're building all over our country, and this is a revolution is happening. It's a business revolution. It's a jobs revolution. It's a car revolution. We're bringing back the car industry that was stolen from us because we have people that didn't know what they were doing sitting at this desk. And they put the wrong people in because they weren't advised properly. And this is really an incredible thing that's happening. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And I think in many respects, pretty much everything that could be said has been, except that I think what Kevin talks about in terms of the cascading economic opportunity from this one single event is just the tip of the iceberg. When you think of all the rules and regulations that you have repealed, I think it's more important, frankly, than the tax cuts. However, in the Working Family Tax Cuts Act, remember we made permanent a lot of really good policy from the first Trump era, not the least of which for small businesses is bonus depreciation. The opportunity to depreciate the year that you purchase an F-150 for your small business or a large truck for your farm. I just think we're going to roll into 2026 and we're going to see an escalation of economic opportunity, the likes of which I probably have never seen.
I think nobody's ever seen it, nobody in the world, because there's never been 18 or whatever it ends up being. In 10 months, we have $18 trillion being invested. We never had $1 trillion being invested. And Biden had much less than that. Think of it. He had less than $1 trillion over 4 years. We have $18 trillion in 10 months. And it's actually as of 9 months. So there's never been anything. Eric?
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you. And on behalf of the people of the great state of Missouri, who we actually make things from F-15s to F-47s now, thanks to you. We'll be building the F-47 and then F-150s. And those are real jobs, and we make things in Missouri. This is going to go a long way, I think, for making things more affordable for normal people. Nothing could be more American than driving a car on a highway, and this is going to make that more accessible for more people. So thanks for your leadership.
Your state's doing a great job.
Yeah, well, they love you too.
It's a great place. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to talk to you just a minute from a rural perspective, because these CAFE standards were absolutely unworkable in rural Missouri. We need vehicles that are practical and affordable and can haul for our small businesses, for agriculture, and it just simply didn't work. Those CAFE standards didn't work. So I applaud you, and Secretary Dell.